Chapter 1936. The Ox Chieftain glared in anger. Luotian Chuan and the demon sovereigns of the demon god mountain came with ill intentions. In the desolate region, the leaders of the three hegemonic powers were all gathered here. Only the people from the Battle Saint tribe will fight? The Ox Chieftain coldly asked. He knew that a battle was unavoidable. But Luotian Chuan said that only those from the Battle Saint tribe and the Divine Ox clan would fight. This meant that he, Luotian Chuan, wouldn't act. If not, why didn't he act directly? There was no need for heavenly deities to intentionally play tricks on him. You can put it that way. Luotian Chuan nodded. The Ox Chieftain turned his gaze over and stared at the Ox deities behind him. The Ox deities seemed to be conversing about something, and after that, a muscular figure stepped out. This was none other than one of the heavenly deities of the Divine Ox clan. He had the head of an ox and the body of a human. His body was gigantic and exuded a terrifying aura. White mist flowed out from his nose as his terrifying eyes gleamed with demonic light. His large eyes stared at Chiyu as he coldly spoke. The Battle Saint tribe should have been annihilated long ago. Since there are still survivors, let us annihilate them one more time today. A terrifying aura gushed forth as rumbling sounds rang out. Demonic chi gushed forth from his feet, transforming into dark clouds. His body gradually expanded in size, becoming a terrifying ox head that blotted out the sun. He stood there and it felt like he could touch the heavens. The people below had to tilt their heads in a straight line before they could see his head. Boom! Stepping on the air, this gigantic ox head soared up into the sky. With the Divine Ox Castle here, he clearly didn't wish for the shockwaves of the battle to affect the Divine Ox Castle. Chiyu's body rose into the air together with him, heading straight for the clouds. Two figures appeared at an extremely high place. Their huge bodies landed in the eyes of those on the ground, and they were no different from the size of ordinary people. Moreover, in the vast and endless region, countless people and demons could see them in the sky when they raised their heads. Luotian Chuan and the Kuan sovereign were also watching from below. The experts from the Divine Ox Castle were the same as well, they were just spectators. After regaining the Battle Saint bone and stepping into the heavenly divinity realm, how strong were the experts of the Battle Saint tribe exactly? In the air, two figures faced each other. Behind the Divine Ox clan's heavenly deity, the shadow of an incomparably gigantic Kuei ox appeared. His true form was already large enough, but this shadow of his was even larger, covering the entire sky, causing it to lose all light. Behind Chiyu released his astral souls as a divine diagram appeared behind him. It was as though the diagram contained the heavens and earth within it. Golden light frenziedly gushed forth, filled with an overwhelming battle intent. Roar! All of a sudden, a heaven-shaking roar rang out from the mouth of the Divine Ox clan's heavenly deity. His voice was like thunder, causing the heavens and earth to tremble, capable of shattering the souls of people. Chiyu's body trembled, he only felt the sound waves transforming into a destructive energy that ravaged his body. A gigantic battle character appeared, shining with a resplendent light as it flew forward, colliding with the sound waves of the thunderous roar. A terrifying formless energy erupted forth, wanting to destroy everything. All of a sudden, a stifling pressure bore down, the demonic chi in the air churned frenziedly. The ox god threw its head back and let out a long roar, the sound of its roar shaking the heavens and earth. The sound of thunder rumbled through the air, and in the air, the vast space was covered by the roar of countless Kuei ox. Each and every one of them was roaring in rage, accompanied by the resplendent light of the sun and moon, as well as the sound of thunder. An extremely terrifying feeling appeared in Chiyu's heart. It felt like his body was about to collapse and his soul was about to be destroyed. Not only were the Kuei ox clones rampaging through the heavens and earth, they were also rampaging through his body, trampling on his life force. Every time the Kuei ox clones throbbed, it felt like they were trampling on his soul. The astral souls behind Chiyu radiated boundless light. After that, numerous palms manifested, transforming into a supreme divine formation that seemed endless. After these palms appeared, they blasted out, containing a heaven-shaking battle intent. The word battle was imbued within them, capable of destroying everything in its path, blasting towards those Kuei Ox clones. The heavenly deity from the divine Ox clan radiated boundless might. From Chiyu's astral soul, a gigantic palm that blotted out the sun suddenly appeared. This gigantic palm seemed to be formed from the battle intent of the heavens and earth. It turned translucent and shot out, directly penetrating through the bodies of the Kuei Ox clones, aiming for the divine Ox clan. Upon feeling the terrifying might of this palm imprint, the divine Ox clan's heavenly deity took out a divine drum and began to beat it. The light from the sun, moon and thunder shot out at the same time, capable of penetrating through the sky, colliding with the illusory palm imprint. A formless shockwave manifested. After that, the shockwave transformed into a tsunami that threatened to destroy everything in the surroundings. The crowd below felt the sky trembling. After that, the tremors gradually calmed down. Chiyu's expression was incomparably calm. He calmly stared at the divine Ox clan's heavenly deity before him. Do you only have this little bit of strength? His voice was like thunder, echoing through the air. Everyone felt their hearts trembling when they heard it. This heavenly deity from the Battle Saint tribe was simply insufferably arrogant. He actually said to the divine Ox clan's heavenly deity, "Do you only have this little bit of strength?" In that case, could this heavenly deity from the Battle Saint tribe be even stronger? The divine Ox clan's heavenly deity had an unsightly expression on his face when he heard this. He was already fighting with his full strength, but if Chiyu wasn't using his full strength, the divine Ox clan would truly face a calamity today. I will let you experience the ultimate saint art of the Battle Saint tribe, the Battle Saint art. Chiyu calmly spoke. As the sound of his voice faded, his astral soul enveloped the entire world. He folded hand seals and in an instant, boundless battle intent began to brew in all directions. The divine Ox clan's heavenly deity inclined his head and stared at the surroundings. Numerous battle runes could be seen flashing in all directions. The battle intent that was brewing was so strong that it could shake the heavens and earth. His heart pounded as a bad premonition appeared in his heart. Chiyu's aura soared frenziedly. It was like the boundless battle intent in the world was fusing together with him, transforming into his strength. At this moment, Chiyu was like a true battle god. The Battle Saint tribe was named after war. The heavens and earth trembled. Chiyu blasted out with his palm. The great Tao of the heavens seemed to be infused into this palm. The boundless battle intent in the world, as well as the countless battle runes, all radiated a bright light, landing on the palm imprint, causing it to contain a might that could pierce through the heavens and earth. Upon feeling this pressure, the divine Ox clan's heavenly deity turned as pale as paper. He felt a sense of helplessness. He could sense that the might of this palm strike was tens of times stronger compared to Chiyu's earlier attack. This palm strike was basically unblockable. Careful! Below, the Ox chieftain roared, clearly sensing that something was wrong. But how could it be of any use? When the palm imprint landed, all resistance was futile. This palm strike seemed to be able to shatter the heavenly Tao and break apart samsara. The ultimate intent of the Battle Saint art, the Battle Saint intent, could shatter all shackles and sweep away all obstacles. As the battle runes descended, the gigantic body of the divine Ox clan's heavenly deity turned illusory and illusory. After that, a thunderous boom rang out as the divine Ox clan's heavenly deity died. This scene caused the hearts of countless people below to tremble violently. Too powerful. The Battle Saint tribe reappeared in the desolate region, and they were actually so powerful to such an extent. A heavenly deity from the divine Ox clan didn't even have a chance to escape. He was killed in a single strike. The Ox chieftain turned ashen. Right now, the divine Ox clan originally only had 4 heavenly deities guarding the divine Ox clan. Now, they lost another one. Right now, there were still 3 heavenly deities remaining, including him. In addition, Chiyu's strength also shocked him. The divine Ox clan that had dominated the desolate region for countless years, was a calamity about to befall them today? Boom! The Ox chieftain stepped out. He wanted to fight personally. He knew that the other two heavenly deities weren't a match for Chiyu. If they fought, they would die for sure. Hence, he chose to fight personally. Chieftain, what are you doing? Upon seeing the Ox Chieftain's actions, Luo Shenchuan calmly spoke, didn't I already say that Ox Chieftain's opponent is someone else? No matter which expert from the Battle Saint tribe it is, I will accept the challenge. Tell him to scram out. The Ox Chieftain coldly spoke. Since the chief is so impatient, then I shall respectfully accept. A voice seemed to come from the void. Following that, a young man dressed in white stepped out. His incomparably handsome face and extraordinary temperament made him seem like the main character of the world just by casually walking over there. Qin Wentian. The expression of the Ox Chieftain turned cold. I should have long guessed that you are the one controlling everything from the shadows. Devilox, you were the one who killed Devilox back then and seized the Dao Bone away. However, what relationship do you have with the Battle Saint tribe exactly? He is the Saint Lord of my Battle Saint tribe. Everyone in the Battle Saint tribe listens to his commands. Chiyu coldly spoke. The eyes of the Ox Chieftain flinched. Qin Wentian was actually the Saint Lord of the Battle Saint tribe. He killed Devilox and gave the Dao Bone to someone from the Battle Saint tribe. After that, he nurtured a heavenly deity from the Battle Saint tribe and came here to collect the debt from the Divine Ox clan. However, the Ox Chieftain was as expected of a supreme character. He soon calmed his heart and spoke to Qin Wentian, in that case, you want to challenge me alone? Qin Wentian's talent was outstanding and extremely powerful. He had once defeated Heaven's Son, but he was still the leader of a tribe after all. He was the #1 expert of the Divine Ox clan, the Ox Chieftain. Qin Wentian and the others didn't seem to intend to use the method of encircling and suppressing them. They wanted to challenge him in the name of the Battle Saint tribe. This battle, they were challenging him. Chapter 1937. Since Qin Wentian dared to challenge him, as the chieftain of the Divine Ox clan, what reason did he have to fear Qin Wentian? The Ox Chieftain stepped out, causing the entire space to tremble. Every step he took was like trampling on the hearts of everyone, causing the hearts of countless people to tremble. He was originally someone from the Qin clan, Qin Yuanfeng's son, Qin Tiangong's grandson. He once became a god in the Boundless Sea region, easily suppressing the heavenly deities of the Qin clan. He once defeated Heaven's son Qin Dangtian head-on, catching up from behind. He solved the secret of the Heaven Vault and gained control of the strongest secret realm in the supreme ancient immortal realms, the Heaven Vault. He founded the Qin Heavenly Divine Sect and became the sect leader of the Qin Heavenly Divine Sect. And now, he had another identity. He was the Saint Lord of the Battle Saint tribe, the hegemon of the desolate region from countless years ago. For this battle, he challenged the Ox Chieftain of the Divine Ox clan. How could the people of the world not be filled with anticipation for such a battle? The Ox Chieftain of the Divine Ox clan was already an expert at the peak of the hegemonic powers. Between him and Qin Wentian, who would be stronger? The Ox Chieftain stared at Qin Wentian as he panted heavily. His large eyes flickered with coldness. He didn't say anything, he only let out a low roar as he soared into the air, flying towards the battlefield in the sky. Only by using Qin Wentian's blood would they be able to wash away the humiliation of the Divine Ox clan. Also, as the Ox Chieftain, he understood very clearly that this battle didn't merely concern glory. It concerned the fate of the Divine Ox clan. If he was defeated, the Divine Ox clan would become history in the desolate region. He naturally wouldn't be so foolish to think that Qin Wentian, Luo Shenchuan, and the demon sovereigns came here purely to challenge his Divine Ox clan. Given the grudge between them, they would definitely want the Divine Ox clan to disappear from the desolate region forever. Qin Wentian's white robes fluttered in the wind as he soared into the air. Although he didn't need to worry about the Divine Ox castle, there were still many spectators watching from afar. The aftershocks of a deity-level battle were too terrifying. If they fought on the ground, even the earth would collapse. It was unknown how many regions of the desolate region would be razed to the ground. In the air, amidst the clouds, the Ox Chieftain's body expanded. He was the same as Qin Wentian, transforming into a giant. He was like a true heavenly deity, lofty and lofty. A heavy pressure bore down, enveloping the entire sky. The surroundings were deathly silent. If someone came to the area where their pressure was released, they most probably would directly suffocate to death. The ox chieftain took out a pitch-black long spear. This was the ox god's long spear. At the tip of the long spear, azure and black energy interweaved and flowed, resembling a black hole of destruction. It was terrifying to the extreme. Boom! He took a small step forward and abruptly, an extreme pressure manifested in this space. In this space, the illusory silhouettes of several inconceivably gigantic ox deities appeared, blotting out the sun and blocking out the starry space. These incomparably gigantic figures bore down on Qin Wentian, causing him to find it hard to move. It was like he was carrying the weight of the entire heavens on his back. His legs felt extremely heavy, as though he couldn't even take a single step forward. The shadows of the ox deities breathed out. Black fog enveloped the sky as they shot towards Qin Wentian. This was a destructive current that could corrode and destroy everything. Qin Wentian could sense the destructive might contained within. A dazzling radiance circulated around him as the power of his bloodline transformed into a beam of light, radiating out in all directions. It was as though he could break through the poison barrier, impenetrable by the myriad of techniques. He stood in the midst of the destructive black fog, unmoving and as calm as ever. The him now was no longer the same as before. He was no longer the young man he was in the past. He was a true heavenly deity with the aura of a supreme expert. He stood there like a god peering down at the world, like a sovereign descending from the heavens. The ox chieftain brandished his ox deity spear and pierced it towards Qin Wentian. At this instant, numerous incomparably gigantic ox deities' shadows stabbed out at the same time, locking down the sky, wanting to pierce through this space. There was nowhere to hide. And at this moment, Qin Wentian was still enveloped by that stifling pressure. It was like he was carrying the entire sky on his back. The Tao of dimensional space unleashed its might. For a period of time, numerous dimensional black holes appeared around Qin Wentian, containing a boundless world within. When the destructive spears shot over, the dimensional black holes transformed into terrifying vortexes that could devour everything, directly sucking them into the vortexes, causing them to be trapped within the boundless dimension. The expression of the ox chieftain didn't change, it was like he had long expected this scene. He had personally witnessed Qin Wentian's strength before. Back then when he fought against Qin Wentian, he was also present. If he could kill Qin Wentian just like that, in that case, it would be impossible for Qin Wentian to cause such a huge commotion in the supreme ancient immortal realms. At this moment, countless spears of darkness appeared, piercing through the sky. The ox deity's shadows stabbed out, directly nailing them into the air. At this instant, Qin Wentian had a feeling that this incomparably heavy space was locked down by the spears of darkness. This space was in danger of collapsing and it was very possible that he would be buried here together with it. The ox chieftain coldly laughed. The ox god robe in his hands stabbed out as a terrifying might penetrated through everything, detonating all destructive energy. At this instant, the space sealed by the ox god's shadow seemed to have been detonated. The frenzied destructive energy exploded forth, destroying everything. Even the boundless space was about to be buried. Even if they were in the void dimension, they would be destroyed together with the ox god, having no way to escape. Qin Wentian stared at this destroyed space. His eyes seemed to transform into a dimensional space. With a single glance, all the destructive energy in this space was sealed by his eye technique. A space-time sealing energy manifested, causing the destructive storm to be sucked into it. After that, it was sealed within and gradually dissipated. Naturally, there were still many waves of destructive energy rushing towards Qin Wentian. He waved his sword, transforming it into a tempest, wanting to devour and shred everything apart. A heaven-shaking wave of destructive energy gradually dissipated into nothingness. The ox chieftain coldly stared at Qin Wentian. This young heavenly deity before him was much stronger compared to when he fought against Qin Dangtian back then. Regardless of his spacetime sword Dao or his dimensional spacetime Dao art, they were all much more powerful. It seemed like the sealing energy was gradually infused into his Dao art, making it harder and harder to deal with him. But the more it was so, the stronger the killing intent in the Ox Chieftain's heart grew. His battle intent soared even higher. Today, if he didn't kill Qin Wentian, his Divine Ox clan would be annihilated. There was no third path. Rumble. A thunderous sound rang out. The Ox Chieftain transformed into an incomparably gigantic Kuei ox, radiating a towering baleful aura. He actually reverted to his true form. The Divine Ox spear transformed into his horn, radiating a darkness intent of destruction. His eyes stared at Qin Wentian, exuding a terrifying aura. It was like being stared at by his eyes was an extremely terrifying thing. Stepping on the ground, the heavens and earth became incomparably heavy. In the air, the shadows of countless Kuei ox appeared. Numerous ox deities covered the entire sky. He was the Ox Chieftain of the Divine Ox clan, he was the Kuei Ox god. He had his own innate talent. At this moment, the eyes of everyone below froze. When they inclined their heads and stared at the sky, they could only see countless Kuei ox silhouettes burying the heavens and earth. How could they contend against this? The Kuei ox silhouettes galloped forth, instantly causing the sky to collapse. The space around Qin Wentian was completely buried, there was simply no path of retreat. The entire space was filled with the Kuei ox silhouettes. It was like he wasn't facing a single Kuei ox but rather a myriad of ox deities. His opponent was none other than the Ox Chieftain. When Qin Wentian saw this scene, he released the power of his bloodline, transforming into a demonic divinity. Shadows of countless demonic divinities appeared as he released his astral soul. This caused the demonic eyes of the Ox Chieftain to freeze. Back then, Qin Wentian didn't release this astral soul, it was still an astral soul that originated from the 9 heavenly layers. As expected, Qin Wentian didn't only have 12 astral souls. His astral souls seemed to be boundless. This astral soul was like a grand formation, capable of summoning the heavens. When this astral soul was released together with his bloodline talent, the countless demonic beast astral souls in the 9 heavenly layers seemed to sense it. After that, boundless divine light cascaded downwards as the shadow of numerous demonic divinities manifested around Qin Wentian. For a period of time, the roars of millions of demonic divinities filled the air. All the greater demons were saint beasts. With a single roar, the entire sky trembled. Kill! Qin Wentian roared. In an instant, the demonic divinities he summoned all rushed towards the soaring Kuei ox. The entire sky was instantly enveloped in a destructive might as rumbling sounds echoed through the air. Even for the powerful enemies that were boundlessly far away, everyone could feel the intense tremors as well as the violent demonic might. How crazy! Qin Wentian possesses the bloodline of the Luotian clan and has the innate talent of rearing divinities. Now, he even has the ability to summon demonic divinities from the 9 heavenly layers to fight against the Ox Chieftain. The hearts of everyone were filled with shock. Even the people from the Divine Ox Castle felt their hearts pounding when they saw this scene. Initially, they were extremely confident in their Ox Chieftain. But when they saw the battle in the sky, their confidence started to waver. This genius whose name shook the supreme ancient immortal realms was simply too powerful. Ever since his identity was revealed, every time he acted, he would cause a huge commotion, causing the hearts of everyone to tremble. In that case, was he planning to use the title of the Ox Chieftain to clear his name once more? Chapter 1938. In the violent air, demonic chi danced wildly. Qin Wentian was like a demon god, exuding boundless magnificence, lording over everything under the heavens. The Ox Chieftain of the Divine Ox clan commanded countless Kuei bulls to gallop over. Qin Wentian actually summoned countless greater demons to fight for him. It was like these two supreme demon gods were fighting for the position of the hegemon of all demons. In the boundless space, destructive energy ravaged the area. The Kuei bulls had no way to enter. Qin Wentian was surrounded by countless greater demons, protecting him. He stood among the demon gods, appearing so outstanding. An incomparably gigantic Kuei bull stared at Qin Wentian. His eyes were terrifying and extremely cold. He didn't expect Qin Wentian to be so powerful to this extent. A terrifying baleful light flashed. The ox chieftain moved. That incomparably gigantic body of a Kuei ox rushed towards Qin Wentian. Ahead of him, tens of thousands of Kuei oxen opened up a path, tearing everything apart. More and more demon gods rushed over, clashing against the charging ox deities. Gradually, the number of Kuei oxen that were opening up the path grew fewer and fewer. However, the ox chieftain didn't stop. His gigantic demonic eyes locked onto Qin Wentian. The horn formed from the ox spear shone with a dark light. His speed abruptly increased as a gigantic ox chieftain appeared in the sky, locking down this entire space. Everywhere he passed by, the demon gods would be directly penetrated by his horns, disintegrating into nothingness. It was like even the demon gods in the sky had no way to block his attack. In his eyes, there was only Qin Wentian. Qin Wentian still stood there, not moving at all. His eyes stared at the gigantic Kuei ox rushing over. The ox chieftain of the divine ox clan seemed to have become even more violent, as though he had lost his patience. He wanted to rush over, wanting to kill Qin Wentian directly to eliminate all future troubles. However, as the ox chieftain, he wasn't someone who would act rashly. He himself possessed terrifying strength, which was why he dared to act so brazenly, trampling on the heavens. Boom! The sky trembled violently, as if Qin Wentian's heart trembled along with it. Boom, boom, boom. As the ox chieftain got closer, Qin Wentian's heart pounded even more intensely, as though it was about to explode. Not only his heart, every other part of his body was trembling. A stifling pressure bore down on him like the heavens collapsing, causing him to be unable to move. The gigantic body of the Kuei ox was getting closer and closer, and the demonic glow in its eyes was becoming more and more demonic and terrifying. The body seemed to transform into a beam of destructive light, stabbing towards Qin Wentian, wanting to pierce through Qin Wentian's body. When it got close, Qin Wentian had never felt such a powerful pressure before. This was one of the strongest opponents he had ever faced. Qin Wentian moved with great difficulty. He wanted to lift his feet but he discovered that it was extremely difficult. Both his legs were twitching from the terrifying tremors and his hands were incomparably heavy. As the ox chieftain fought in close combat, the power of his Dao art was also strengthened to the extreme. Even for Qin Wentian, it was hard for him to struggle free. At this moment, a layer of golden light appeared around Qin Wentian. This light illuminated the heavens and earth, like the Tao of eternity descending from the heavens. At this instant, the entire sky seemed to have fallen into a golden spatial world. The endless flowing lines were like the power of a seal. The flickering golden frame was like the supreme power of space. The flowing power was like the power of time. The ox chieftain's speed grew slower and slower, like he had fallen into a golden spacetime swamp. The body of the Kuei ox that followed him froze there, unable to move. It roared and struggled frenziedly but it had no way to break free. This was like an absolute space, containing an incomparable amount of Tao energy within. It was a fusion of all the different types of energy Qin Wentian had in the past, using it to the extreme. Absolute imprisonment. Qin Wentian coldly spoke. The golden light grew even more resplendent and everything seemed to come to a halt. Not only for the ox chieftain, even Qin Wentian's body seemed to have stopped as well. In that space, time no longer flowed. Even with how powerful the ox chieftain was, he also froze at this instant. He was like an incomparably gigantic statue of a Kuei ox, extremely vivid and lifelike. How powerful must the Tao energy be to be able to cause the ox chieftain to be unable to resist it and be directly sealed there? Below, the gazes of countless experts froze there. Even Luotian Chuan and the demon sovereigns had looks of shock on their faces. They didn't know of Qin Wentian's improvement during these years and didn't know how strong Qin Wentian's Tao was now. However, he seemed to be able to condense different astral souls. His Tao energy was able to grow stronger unceasingly, becoming more perfect. At this moment, Qin Wentian caused this entire space to be locked down. This was absolute power. Even the powerful Ox chieftain was locked down like a golden statue. This was too terrifying. If they were the ones facing Qin Wentian, would they be able to resist such a Tao? Everything in this space was sealed, but the Tao energy seemed to be everywhere, flowing formlessly. The eyes of the Ox chieftain flashed with fear. His Tao energy was completely suppressed at this moment and he had no way to break out of this situation. This sort of passively waiting was like waiting for Qin Wentian's judgment. Such a feeling was simply too painful. Strands of Tao might float in this absolute space, sealing life, sealing spacetime. The Ox chieftain only felt his will to resist growing weaker and weaker. His body trembled slightly as he let out a low-sounding roar. But after that, he stopped. His eyes stared fixedly at Qin Wentian. At this moment, Qin Wentian didn't seem to be in a good state either. He was doing his best to control the energy of his Tao art and was also like a statue. The two of them seemed to have transformed into eternal statues, standing in the air, as though they would never move again. Time slowly flowed by. The Ox chieftain made some minute movements, but as time flowed by, he didn't move at all. In fact, his gaze gradually turned listless. Nobody knew what he was thinking about at this moment, and nobody knew what terrifying things he was experiencing. The hearts of the people from the Divine Ox clan sped up. They were incomparably nervous, but no one dared to save the Ox chieftain. Even heavenly deities didn't dare to because Luotian Chuan and the heavenly deities of the demon god mountain were still guarding above their heads. Under such a great disparity in strength, if they dared to save the Ox chieftain, they would definitely die. Today, would their Divine Ox clan truly face their doomsday? Many Kuei Ox experts felt unease and fear in their hearts. After a very long time, finally, the golden light gradually dissipated. The absolute imprisonment relaxed. Qin Wentian drew in a deep breath, a look of fatigue could be seen on his face. Earlier, he had been constantly releasing his Tao energy to suppress the Ox chieftain, causing him to have no way to struggle free. Not only that, he was also constantly taking away the Ox chieftain's life. At this moment, the Ox chieftain seemed to have transformed into a statue. He fell down from the sky, causing sonic booms to ring out. The boundlessly vast body of the Ox chieftain directly crumbled from the impact. That gigantic body, the body of the Ox chieftain, landed in the Divine Ox clan. He was like a majestic and eternal statue. But they knew that not long ago, he was still the unexcelled Ox chieftain of the Divine Ox clan, an incomparably powerful heavenly deity. How could this be possible? Countless experts from the Divine Ox clan didn't dare to believe this result. Their Ox chieftain was defeated and even his life was taken away. Qin Wentian descended from the sky. He took out a black wooden cudgel and smashed it towards the Ox chieftain like a heavenly deity descending to the mortal world. A deafening boom rang out as the Ox chieftain shuddered. After that, it completely lost all signs of life. Qin Wentian actually added another strike because he knew what had happened. He knew that earlier, he didn't truly kill the Ox chieftain. Such a powerful existence was too difficult to kill. He had to make sure that he didn't leave behind any future troubles. The Divine Ox clan is tyrannical, causing chaos in the desolate region. Back then, they used despicable methods to destroy the Battle Saint tribe. Today, as the Saint Lord of the Battle Saint tribe, I brought the Battle Saint tribe leader here to destroy the Divine Ox clan. Qin Wentian calmly spoke. Within the Divine Ox castle, countless roars of rage abruptly rang out. Qin Wentian's words were like sentencing them to death. Qin Wentian wanted the Divine Ox clan to no longer exist in the supreme ancient immortal realms. An intense battle erupted in the Divine Ox castle. In this battle, countless people died. The Divine Ox clan was purged from the desolate region. Qin Wentian and the others all left. When the people who came later arrived at the Divine Ox castle, they only saw a stretch of ruins. After Qin Wentian and the others left, countless silhouettes appeared in the ruins. At this moment, they were all quietly standing there, feeling endless emotions in their hearts. This was the Divine Ox clan that had stood at the peak of the desolate region for countless years. But now, they had become the dust of history. They had personally witnessed the destruction of a peak power. The news of what happened in the desolate region swiftly circulated through the 8 regions of the supreme ancient immortal realms, entering the ears of everyone. Countless people felt their hearts trembling. The destruction of a peak power was sufficient to cause the entire supreme ancient immortal realms to tremble. This time around, not only was the Divine Ox clan destroyed, there was another matter that caused people's backs to turn cold. Qin Wentian killed the Ox chieftain of the Divine Ox clan. How powerful was he now? Many peak powers in the supreme ancient immortal realms felt uneasy. This time around, Qin Wentian used the name of the Battle Saint tribe to take revenge. Maybe, it was because he didn't want to touch the sensitive nerves of the other peak powers. But since an incomparably powerful demon race was destroyed, how could the other peak powers remain calm? In the immortal realms, a sense of panic permeated the air. Naturally, there were also many crazy thoughts. Chapter 1939. After the Divine Ox clan was destroyed, there were no more hegemonic powers in the desolate region. The Luotian clan was split up. One faction was in the Qin Heavenly Divine sect while the other faction migrated. The Demon God Mountain was also in the Qin Heavenly Divine sect. Hence, the current interesting situation was created. The vast and boundless desolate region actually had no hegemonic powers guarding it. Hence, the various experts contended for supremacy, causing chaos to descend upon the desolate region. In the lower world ruled by the desolate region, many years ago, an extremely powerful and mysterious power suddenly appeared in a city and settled down there. No one knew where they came from. They were all very low profile, but there were people who probed them before. The strength of these people was unfathomably deep. This power was none other than the hegemonic power of the desolate region, the Luotian clan. Naturally, this was only one faction. This faction was controlled by Luotian Mu. Right now, there was a strange atmosphere in the Luotian clan. Many people from the Luotian clan suddenly mentioned that they wanted to return to the supreme ancient immortal realms. They weren't willing to stay in such a weak place. Naturally, the reason why they had such thoughts was because they received news recently. Although the Luotian clan had migrated, it was impossible for them to not leave any people behind in the supreme ancient immortal realms. During these years, many major events happened in the supreme ancient immortal realms. Not long ago, the Divine Ox clan of the desolate region was destroyed. They were killed by the son of their former princess, Luotian Qianxue, Qin Wentian. That power that once humiliated the Luotian clan was razed to flat ground and their name was erased from the supreme ancient immortal realms. Not only so, the powerful Qin clan that was once unexcelled in the world, slaughtering their way into the Luotian clan to threaten them, was now facing a calamity. Many years ago, Qin Wentian once headed to the Qin clan to ruin the marriage between Heaven's son Qin Dangtian and goddess Nikhang. After that, he defeated Heaven's son. His grandfather Qin Tiangang traversed through time and arrived here, suppressing the Qin cauldron eternally in the chaotic flow of time. Several heavenly deities of the Qin clan died. Different from the Qin clan and Divine Ox clan, the Luotian clan led by Qin Wentian and Luotian Chuan now had a glorious era. They established the Qin Heavenly Divine sect and cultivated in the Heaven Vault. It was said that several heavenly deities were born there and the Battle Saint tribe returned. Qin Wentian became their Saint Lord. Right now, the entire Supreme Ancient Immortal Realms feared Qin Wentian and the Qin Heavenly Divine sect he established. In the Great Hall of the Luotian clan, many experts gathered here. However, they were currently having a discussion. I feel that we should return. The Heaven Vault is a secret realm that can nurture heavenly deities. It's said that Qin Wentian's subordinates have already produced several heavenly deities. An old man spoke. They truly didn't want to miss out on such an opportunity. Don't forget how we treated Qin Wentian in the past. It's fine if he doesn't feel jealousy or hatred, but do you think that Qin Wentian would allow us to enter the Heaven Vault for cultivation? Someone argued. Back then, the entire Luotian clan came to an agreement, rejecting Qin Wentian. When the Qin clan descended, only Luotian Chuan protected him. Right now, aren't the people of the Luotian clan still cultivating in the Heaven Vault? After all, their bloodlines are the same and they are all close relatives. Qin Wentian's maternal grandfather and uncle are still alive. If we are willing to apologize, there shouldn't be any problems. Clearly, there were some people who wanted to return to the supreme ancient immortal realms. Even if they submitted, it was fine as long as they could enter the Heaven Vault to cultivate. Below, the sounds of argument rang out unceasingly. However, the number of people wanting to return to the supreme ancient immortal realms was extremely high. Enough. Luo Shenmu sat on the host's seat as he berated. His expression was cold. The people of the Luotian clan could return. Maybe, Qin Wentian might accept them as well. But what about him, Luo Shenmu? He was someone who fought against Luotian Chuan for the position of clan leader. He was also someone who joined forces with Luotian Chuan to split the Luotian clan. They have fought for many years, and back then when the Qin clan descended, he strongly opposed Luotian Chuan protecting Qin Wentian. The Heaven Vault might accept anyone, but it was impossible for Luo Shenmu to do so. Once they returned, the Luotian clan would once again fall under Luotian Chuan's control. Most probably, Luo Shenmu only had a single path left. In the future, I don't wish to hear such arguments again. My Luotian clan doesn't need to depend on others to survive. Luo Shenmu coldly spoke. Many people turned their gazes to him, especially for those who wanted to return. Right now, their gazes were no longer filled with respect for Luo Shenmu. Clan leader, there are some words that I shouldn't say. But now that our Luotian clan has fallen to such a state, I have to say it out loud. An old man calmly spoke. Once, we supported Luotian Chuan to govern the Luotian clan because we wanted the Luotian clan to grow stronger and stronger under Luotian Chuan's leadership. But in truth, after Luotian Chuan took control of the Luotian clan, Luotian Chuan only suffered humiliation. In fact, he even had to migrate to a particle world. Our peak power of the desolate region has fallen to such a state. As for Luotian Chuan and the others, all the humiliation the Luotian clan suffered was because of them, and they grew stronger and stronger. One day, it doesn't matter if our Luotian clan still exists or not. The people of the world will forget about us. The Luotian clan will only have the Luotian clan of the supreme ancient immortal realms. These words resonated with many people. After so many years, they had witnessed many things. It was impossible for them to not feel any resentment. But now, their resentment finally erupted. Luo Shenmu's expression turned ashen. He stared at everyone, and many people were staring at him. There was no longer the respect and reverence they had in the past. It was like they were all blaming him for the decline of the Luotian clan. However, was this really the case? If it wasn't for the appearance of Qin Wentian, would the Luotian clan that was led by Luotian Chuan be able to rise up? He didn't lose to Luotian Chuan but lost to a junior, the son of Luotian Qianxue. It was said that not long ago, Qin Wentian killed the Ox chieftain of the Divine Ox clan. From this, one could very well imagine how strong Qin Wentian was now. If you guys want to return, just do so. I won't stop you. Luo Shenmu calmly spoke. After that, he stood up and left, leaving behind everyone who exchanged mutual glances. If these experts really returned, they would feel some trepidation. Would Qin Wentian and Luotian Chuan really accept them? The changes in the Luotian clan were clearly caused by the destruction of the Divine Ox clan in the desolate region. Also, the repercussions from this battle far surpassed that. Many hegemonic powers in the supreme ancient immortal realms felt a sense of danger. There were actually many powers heading to the pure land of bliss in the universe region, entering the Buddhist world. They naturally didn't head there to seek enlightenment from the Buddhas. Rather, they wanted the Buddhist sects to act. In an ancient temple in the Pure Land of Bliss, an esteemed monk received the heavenly deities of some of the hegemonic powers. The heavenly deities were all extremely polite to the Buddhist cultivators here. At this moment, in a plain-looking ancient temple, many heavenly deities were simply sitting on praying mats. Although my Buddhist sect pursues the Great Tao, I believe that we won't be embroiled in the chaos of war. I also understand the purpose of everyone's visit. However, I'm afraid I'm helpless. A reverend in a kasaya pressed his palms together as he spoke to the people here. The pure land of bliss is untainted by the mortal world. We naturally understand this. Within the pure land of bliss, all the reverends are people of virtue and don't like conflict. However, the current situation in the supreme ancient immortal realms isn't stable. Qin Wentian has provoked deity-level battles multiple times, and the battle at the Divine Ox Castle caused countless lives to be lost. How many lives were there in the supreme ancient immortal realms? He is like a butcher, his hands are stained with blood. A heavenly deity calmly spoke. He pressed his palms together. The Buddhist sect is merciful. How can we allow a vile character to continue causing chaos in the supreme ancient immortal realms? In addition, the pure land of bliss also pursues the great Tao. In the heaven vault, one can sense the Buddhic constellations at a close distance. It would surely be extremely beneficial to the reverend's cultivation. Right now, Qin Wentian has occupied the heaven vault for himself and would frequently provoke war. I'm afraid he wants to destroy all the hegemonic powers in the supreme ancient immortal realms, allowing him to reign supreme. Benefactor Qin doesn't seem to be a vile character. As long as everyone doesn't push him too far, there wouldn't be a war in the supreme ancient immortal realms. The Reverend calmly spoke. He naturally had his own plans. The times now are different from the past. Right now, Qin Wentian's strength is growing stronger and stronger. His ambitions are exposed and he is relying on the heaven vault to do whatever he wants. The Divine Ox clan is a good example. Reverends from the Pure Land of Bliss don't care about worldly affairs, but I'm sure you all understand everything that happened in the supreme ancient immortal realms. Another heavenly deity spoke. The expression of the heavenly deity was as calm as ever. No one could tell what he was thinking. The heaven vault is a place of chaos. If it is open to the world, I'm afraid it would be hard to avoid the conflicts in the supreme ancient immortal realms. The Reverend calmly spoke. The eyes of the heavenly deities flashed as they cursed silently in their hearts. After that, one of them spoke. The heaven vault can be controlled by the Buddhist sect and won't be fully open to the public. The Buddhist sect can choose some people from the hegemonic powers in the supreme ancient immortal realms to enter for cultivation. In this case, I'm sure there wouldn't be any conflicts. As the sound of his voice faded, the eyes of that reverend brightened. He stared at the heavenly deity and asked, if this is the case, would the hegemonic powers in the supreme ancient immortal realms act against our Buddhist sect? How would we dare to? The Buddhist sect is extremely prestigious and has existed for countless years in the universe region. They are existences of faith in the supreme ancient immortal realms. If the Buddhist sect controls the heaven vault, the hegemonic powers would be able to feel at ease. Someone spoke. Although he didn't mean what he said, his words were incomparably honest. That reverend frowned slightly, as though he was still unwilling. If our Buddhist sect interferes, wouldn't it be considered as forceful usurpation? How can that be? Qin Wentian himself has already occupied the heaven vault. The Buddhist sect would be the one to uphold justice. This is what everyone wants. The various heavenly deities all spoke up. There was already a supreme tier existence in the supreme ancient immortal realms, the Buddhist sect. At the very least, they mustn't allow it to appear again. Qin Wentian, the Qiankuan sect, 9 Heavens Mystical Palace. If they also became supreme tier existences, it would be a calamity for them. They would rather the Buddhist sect control the heaven vault than allow Qin Wentian to continue growing. If that happened, it would be too dangerous for them. As for the Pure Land of Bliss, they were originally already a supreme tier power. Even if they controlled the heaven vault, it was nothing much. No matter what, it would be more beneficial to them compared to Qin Wentian controlling the heaven vault. In addition, it was impossible for Qin Wentian to allow them to enter the heaven vault for cultivation. However, the Buddhist sect had this hope. Chapter 1940. In the Qin Heavenly Divine Sect, Qin Wendian also knew that his act of destroying the Divine Ox clan would cause the other hegemonic powers in the Supreme Ancient Immortal Realms to feel trepidation. After the Divine Ox clan was destroyed, he had been observing the situation in the Supreme Ancient Immortal Realms. Although the strength in the Heaven Vault was already sufficiently strong, Qin Wendian didn't feel that he had reached the stage where he was invincible. If the other hegemonic powers could cast aside their selfishness and join forces to deal with him, the strength he had now was still insufficient. The entire Supreme Ancient Immortal Realms was simply too powerful. However, the other hegemonic powers also had trepidation and didn't dare to act recklessly. Also, the hegemonic powers weren't in an alliance and it was inevitable for them to have their own selfish motives. For example, during the war against the Qin clan in the past, the other hegemonic powers only watched from the sidelines. They only acted when they felt that their benefits were at stake. Many heavenly deities from the Qin clan died, but none of them interfered. Qin Wendian, who was waiting for news, didn't receive any invasions from the various hegemonic powers. Instead, he received news that many heavenly deities from the various hegemonic powers actually headed to the same place, the universe region. Within the Qin Heavenly Divine Sect, the Qiankuan sect leader and the Nine Heavens mystical maiden found Qin Wendian. The three of them sat down in a pavilion. "You should have heard some news, right?" The Qiankuan sect leader spoke to Qin Wendian. Qin Wendian nodded lightly. "Actually, after we formed an alliance and entered the Heaven Vault to cultivate, there has always been a hegemonic power that didn't interfere. I'm sure you have also noticed it. Right now, many heavenly deities have gone to the Buddhist sect in the universe region to pay a visit." The Qiankuan sect leader's eyes flashed with worry. During these years, many experts of his Qiankuan sect had great improvements in their cultivation in the Heaven Vault. There were even some who started to break through to the deity realm. With such a cultivation environment, the Qiankuan sect naturally hoped to be able to enter the Heaven Vault at any time. Because, they protected Qin Wendian not because of friendship but because of mutual benefits. The Heaven Vault could allow their Qiankuan sect to grow stronger. In the future, they would be able to stand at the peak of the Supreme Ancient Immortal Realms. He also hoped that the Qiankuan sect could be like the Western world, passing down their inheritance eternally. "Will Buddhism intervene?" Qin Wendian asked. "There's no power that can ignore the Heaven Vault. Although the Western world is already strong enough, who would be able to reject becoming stronger?" The Qiankuan sect leader slowly spoke. "That's a supremely terrifying power. Before this, they didn't interfere, but no one knows what they are thinking in their hearts. The reason why the Buddhist sect is able to survive for countless years, far more ancient compared to any other major powers in the Supreme Ancient Immortal Realms, isn't because of compassion or standing aloof from worldly affairs. Rather, it's because they have incomparable strength that no one can shake." The Nine Heavens mystical maiden calmly spoke. Regarding this point, even if she didn't say it, Qin Wendian was very clear about it. In the world of stellar martial cultivators, strength was the foundation of everything. The Pure Land of Bliss in the Western world has existed ever since the Supreme Ancient Immortal Realms were divided into 8 regions. Up until now, no one could shake their position. The other 7 regions have long changed eras. Only the Buddhist sect has eternally remained in the Western world. Countless people in the Western world believed in the Buddhist Tao. Back then, the Qiankuan sect leader and Qin Wendian had discussed this before. If there were still God-King level existences in the Supreme Ancient Immortal Realms, there was a high possibility that they would be in the Western world. In that case, what would happen if the Western world interfered? Qin Wendian stared at the two of them. "It's hard to protect the Heaven Vault." The Qiankuan sect leader spoke. He was the leader of a peak power in the Heaven region. Right now, he was allies with Qin Wendian, but he still said such words. This wasn't because he was belittling himself. It was because he knew how terrifying the Western world was. That mysterious place had foundations that far surpassed any power in the Supreme Ancient Immortal Realms. If the Western world wasn't strong, the heavenly deities of the Supreme Ancient Immortal Realms wouldn't have gone there to pay a visit, wanting to invite the Buddhist sect to deal with the Qin Heavenly Divine Sect. Do the two of you have any suggestions? Qin Wentian muttered to himself for a moment before he spoke again. The Qiankuan sect leader and Nine Heavens mystical maiden exchanged mutual glances. Worry could be seen in the depths of their eyes. The Qiankuan sect leader then spoke, "If the people from the Western world come to the Qin Heavenly Divine Sect, you can choose to take a step back and allow the cultivators of the Western world to enter the Heaven Vault freely." Qin Wentian's eyes flashed when he heard the Qiankuan sect leader's words. From the attitude of these two hegemonic characters, it was clear that they were extremely wary of the Western world. In order to avoid conflict with the Western world, they wanted him to compromise. If the people from the Western world came to the Qin Heavenly Divine Sect, he would allow them to enter the Heaven Vault for cultivation. This went against Qin Wentian's style of doing things. He said before that he would allow anyone he wanted to enter the Heaven Vault. There was no need to say anything more about the Luotian clan. He once had a period of friendship with the demon god Mountain. The Qiankuan sect and Nine Heavens mystical palace were in an alliance and had once stood together with him during the war against the Qin clan. As for the Buddhist sect, this would have to depend on whether the experts from the Western world would really interfere or not. If they did, what attitude would they use? Saint Lord. At this moment, a voice drifted over. It was Qi Yu. Uncle Yu, what's the matter? Qin Wentian asked. Outside the divine sect, a heavenly deity from the Western world has come to pay a visit. Qi Yu spoke. Qin Wentian's eyes flashed. He didn't expect that the other party would actually come when they were just discussing this matter. Their speed was truly fast. The three of them exchanged mutual glances. After that, Qin Wentian's divine sense extended into the distance, instantly enveloping this boundless region and arriving at the sea region outside the Qin Heavenly Divine Sect. A figure floated in the air, quietly standing there. His entire body was incomparably calm, quiet and peaceful, like he wasn't someone from the mortal world. 7 abstinences. Qin Wentian's eyes flashed. The reverend who came to pay a visit was none other than 7 abstinences who once entered the world of reincarnation with him. This person's talent was extremely high, and after stepping out of the world of reincarnation, he was the first person to ascend to the heavenly deity realm. Right now, the Buddhist sect actually wanted him to pay a visit. Reverend 7 abstinences is here personally. Come over and take a seat. Qin Wentian transmitted his voice. 7 abstinences pressed his palms together and nodded in the direction of Qin Wentian. After that, his body floated up and flew over. The Qiankuan sect leader and Nine Heavens mystical maiden didn't leave either. Qin Wentian told them to stay here and listen. He wanted to see what the Western world's attitude was. A moment later, Reverend 7 abstinences came over. He placed one hand before his chin and bowed. After that, he spoke. 7 abstinences pays my respects to the sect leader and Nine Heavens mystical maiden. The Qiankuan sect leader and Nine Heavens mystical maiden were both hegemonic characters whose names shook an entire region. As elders, they were naturally worthy of this bow. The two of them nodded to 7 abstinences and returned the greeting. 7 abstinences then turned to Qin Wentian. Benefactor Qin, after we parted in the past, I didn't expect Benefactor Qin to have such accomplishments today. It's truly commendable. Reverend praises me too much. Back then in the world of reincarnation, I've seen Reverend's glory. After that, I heard that Reverend has ascended to the heavenly deity realm and was deeply moved by Reverend's talent. It has been so many years since we last met, I'm sure Reverend has already reached the peak. Qin Wentian smiled as he replied, Reverend, please take a seat. Many thanks. 7 abstinences nodded. He wasn't polite and sat down opposite of Qin Wentian. He then turned his gaze to Qin Wentian. I'm sure Benefactor Qin has already guessed my purpose for coming here today, right? I know a little, but I don't know everything. I was just thinking of seeking guidance from Reverend. Qin Wentian smiled. Back then, Benefactor Qin unraveled the secret of the Heaven Vault and became the sole controller of the Heaven Vault. Many experts in the supreme ancient immortal realms coveted it, and after that, several deity-level wars broke out and countless people died. The divine Ox clan was even completely annihilated. Before this, many experts from the various powers headed to the Western world to seek an audience with my master. They felt that if this matter isn't resolved quickly, an even greater storm would be created in the future. It's unknown how many people would die in the storm. My master also agreed and knew that benefactor Qin and I are fated. Hence, he ordered me to make a trip here. Reverend Seven Abstinences slowly spoke. Qin Wendian quietly listened. After that, he asked, in that case, the Western world wants to interfere in the matters of the Heaven Vault. I wonder how the Reverend from the Buddhist sect intends to resolve this matter. This was the main point. What was the Western world's purpose? The Qiankuan sect leader and the Nine Heavens mystical maiden both turned their gazes to Seven Abstinences. Clearly, they wanted to know as well. My master's intention is that in order to avoid conflict and chaos in the supreme ancient immortal realms, the Heaven Vault should be temporarily controlled by the Buddhist sect. After that, we will see if we can arrange for the experts of the supreme ancient immortal realms to enter the Heaven Vault for cultivation. Seven Abstinences' voice was calm, as though he was compassionate and compassionate. In order to avoid conflict and chaos in the supreme ancient immortal realms, Qin Wendian smiled when he heard Seven Abstinences' words. He then spoke, Senior from the Buddhist sect is compassionate. I, Qin, am extremely impressed. It's just that this Heaven Vault was obtained by me. God King Shi's inheritance is on me and it belongs to me. Doesn't Reverend feel that it's a little inappropriate to hand it over to the Buddhist sect? Qin Wendian smiled. If the Buddhist sect wanted to enter the Heaven Vault for cultivation, there might be room for negotiation. Up until now, the Buddhist sect has never had any conflict with him. He wasn't someone who would be selfish. However, the Buddhist sect's intention was for him to hand over the Heaven Vault completely. The Buddhist sect would be the one to decide who could enter the Heaven Vault for cultivation. In this case, with the Buddhist sect controlling the Heaven Vault, it would instantly determine the situation of the hegemonic powers in the supreme ancient immortal realms. The Buddhist sect was truly very compassionate. The supreme ancient immortal realms has been peaceful for many years. If a war breaks out, I'm afraid the lives of the people would be plunged into misery and suffering. It's unknown how many people would die. Also, does Benefactor Qin really think that you can contend against the hegemonic powers of the supreme ancient immortal realms? If you do this, to both parties, to the entire supreme ancient immortal realms, it would be the best. Reverend Seven Abstinences calmly spoke. His tone was so calm as though he was speaking of an extremely simple matter. He was thinking for the sake of the entire supreme ancient immortal realms. Qin Wendian stared at Seven Abstinences as a faint smile flashed in his eyes. Today, he finally gained a certain understanding of the Buddhist sect in the Western world. Chapter 1941. Reverend, is the purpose of your visit today because you want me, Qin, to hand over the Heaven Vault to the Western world? Qin Wendian felt some anger in his heart. Anyone would feel extremely unhappy when faced with such an impolite request. The Buddhist sect wanted to expel him with a single sentence, replacing him and taking control of the Heaven Vault, allowing the Buddhist sect to decide who could enter the Heaven Vault for cultivation. However, what sort of character was Qin Wendian now? Reverend Seven Abstinences was incomparably calm when he spoke. Qin Wendian naturally wouldn't reveal his emotions so easily. When Seven Abstinences heard Qin Wendian's words, he pressed his palms together and didn't say anything. This could be considered a tacit agreement. Although his words were tactful, saying that he didn't wish for the people of the supreme ancient immortal realms to be plunged into misery and suffering, in truth, his meaning was the same as Qin Wendian's words. He wanted Qin Wendian to hand over the Heaven Vault. Also, from the start to the end, Reverend Seven Abstinences didn't say a single threatening word. Everyone knew how powerful the Western world was. Reverend Seven Abstinences simply came here to show his attitude. There was no need for any threats. The power of words, how could it be compared to the power of one's own strength? Reverend, please return. Qin Wendian smiled. Reverend Seven Abstinences inclined his head and stared at Qin Wendian. After that, he stood up and pressed his palms together. Benefactor Qin, these two seniors will take my leave. After speaking, 7 abstinences turned and departed. Everything happened in an extremely calm manner, there was no conflict at all. Both sides' performances were extremely terrifying, but the hidden meaning behind all of this was definitely a tempest. Undoubtedly, Qin Wentian's expulsion order was a rejection of the Buddhist sect's request. The Western world was powerful, but they wanted him to hand over the heaven vault with a single sentence. What did this mean? The Qiankuan sect leader and 9 heavens mystical maiden had bitter smiles on their faces when they saw 7 abstinences departing figure. The Western world was truly interested in the heaven vault. This wasn't simply because of the visits from the various hegemonic powers. It was because the Buddhist sect had such intentions as well. If not, given the personality of the Buddhist sect, who could force them to do things they didn't want to do? How could they be swayed with just a few words? It's a little troublesome. The Qiankuan sect leader sighed in a low voice, feeling that things weren't too good. Although Reverend 7 Abstinences was very polite from the start to the end and even addressed him as a senior, how could things end so easily after rejecting the Western world's request? The beautiful eyes of the 9 heavens mystical maiden flashed with a look of worry. Seems like the Western world wanted to interfere in the matter of the heaven vault. If the Buddhist sects made a move, what would they do? Sect leader, Fairy, let's continue. Qin Wentian said with a smile as he raised his wine cup. He seemed to be at ease, but in fact, how could he not know what kind of situation he might face? But what could he do? Could it be that he had to leave the heaven vault with his tail between his legs because of a single sentence from the Buddhist sect? In addition, did they really think everything would be fine after they left the heaven vault? Without the natural barrier of the heaven vault, would the experts of the supreme ancient immortal realms really spare him so easily? If he had such thoughts, he could only say that he was too naive. It was unknown who intentionally circulated the news of Reverend 7 Abstinences heading to the Qin Heavenly Divine sect to pay a visit. For a period of time, the people of the supreme ancient immortal realms felt that a new storm was about to arrive. The powerful Western world also wanted to interfere in the heaven vault. They wanted Qin Wentian to hand over the heaven vault and allow the Buddhist sect to control it. However, Qin Wentian rejected their request. After the people from the various peak powers received this news, they were naturally very happy. When they went to pay a visit to the Western world, they had already dug a huge pit for Qin Wentian. They used the name of the Buddhist sect to ask the Western world to mediate this matter, and the Buddhist sect wouldn't reject them. But as long as the Western world interfered, no matter if Qin Wentian agreed or not, his ending would definitely not be good. Right now, he actually rejected the Western world's request. Once, there were also peak powers who rejected the Western world's request. In the end, only some of the peak characters knew of some secrets. Even the ancient records didn't dare to record this matter. History was written by people, and a lot of history had been hidden. However, some of the top powers that had been passed down from ancient times still knew some things through the generations. Countless years ago, the power that rejected the Buddhist sect was much stronger compared to the power Qin Wentian controlled now. But as for the ending, everyone in the world knew about it. However, no one dared to mention this matter together with the Buddhist sect. This was a taboo in the world. The people of the world didn't dare to mention it, the ancient records didn't dare to record it. Up until now, the people of the world had no idea about this matter. After that, there was news that Reverend 7 Abstinences of the Buddhist sect went to the mystic region. He actually went to the Tiandao Sacred Academy to pay a visit. Someone said that it was because he wanted to pay a visit to the headmaster of the Tiandao Sacred Academy. Reverend 7 Abstinences of the Western world didn't have a deep connection with the Tiandao Sacred Academy. The only time he came to the Tiandao Sacred Academy was because he wanted to comprehend the Tao in the world of reincarnation. But if it was because of that matter, he wouldn't have waited so many years to pay a visit. As for seeking the Tao, there was no need for him to do so. Everyone guessed that right now, Reverend 7 Abstinence's strength might have already surpassed the 3 heavenly deities of the Tiandao Sacred Academy. In that case, there was only one possibility. It was because of the matter regarding the heaven vault. Back then during the battle against the Qin clan, Headmaster Yi of the Tiandao Sacred Academy had acted to help Qin Wentian. Maybe, the Buddhist sect wanted to settle the matter regarding the Tiandao Sacred Academy first. This was a form of respect to the headmaster of the Tiandao Sacred Academy. As for whether Reverend Seven Abstinences met with Headmaster Yi or not, no one knew. They also didn't know what happened to Reverend Seven Abstinences in the Sacred Academy. After Reverend Seven Abstinences headed to the Tiandao Sacred Academy, another two heavenly deities walked out from the Buddhist sect. They headed to the Qiankuan sect and Nine Heavens Mystical Palace respectively. These two hegemonic powers could be said to be the two strongest powers by Qin Wentian's side. If the Qiankuan sect and Nine Heavens Mystical Palace were excluded, Qin Wentian would be alone with no reinforcements. Only a few heavenly deities from the Luotian clan and Demon God Mountain would be able to help him. At that time, when he had to face the experts from the Supreme Ancient Immortal Realms, the consequences could very well be imagined. It was clear that the Buddhist sect and the Western world had begun their operation without a sound or a trace. The Divine Sect in the Boundless Sea region, as well as the Heaven Vault in the air above the Divine Sect, seemed to have become the center of the storm. Right now, there was no one ruling the desolate region. The three hegemonic powers no longer existed and the desolate region entered an era of competition. Many major powers were contending for supremacy in the desolate region. At this moment, in a desolate land, there was a vast stretch of mountains and valleys. Humans and demonic beasts could be seen everywhere, there was no end in sight. The entire mountain range was covered by the demonic beasts. Experts were as common as the clouds and they belonged to different factions. A heavy pressure permeated the air. It seemed that a battle was about to erupt. At this moment, the black clouds in the sky seemed to want to crush the heavens and earth. The entire sky turned dark. In the mountain range, countless figures fell into a state of panic. People from different factions glanced at each other. Could it be an expert invited by the other party? However, they discovered that the people from the various powers were all panicking. They didn't know who the newcomer was. A gigantic face appeared above the dark clouds that shrouded the sky. It was like the face of a storm, like an evil demon, terrifying to the extreme. So many nourishment. A low voice rang out, causing the hearts of countless people to tremble. They felt an intense sense of unease. Nourishment? The evil face that appeared in the sky called them nourishment. Go. Run. All the experts instantly lost the tense atmosphere they had before. They lost the will to fight and started to run for their lives. The evil devil that appeared in the sky was extremely terrifying. A malevolent smile appeared on the evil face. Run. Countless deathly gray air currents flew downwards, disregarding all defenses and directly penetrated through the heads of the experts. After that, gray shadows flew out from the bodies of the experts and gathered in the sky. Those illusory shadows revealed boundless terror, they seemed like souls. Below them, silhouettes fell one after another. Regardless of whether they were powerful humans or demonic beasts, they all fell without exception. In just a short period of time, the entire mountain range was devoid of life. It was deathly silent, like a forbidden place for living beings, like purgatory on earth. That illusory face had a look of incomparable enjoyment on its face. After that, a figure walked out from it. This figure was a young man who looked somewhat handsome. It was just that his countenance was too pale, like there was no blood in it. He was like a devil, looking extremely sinister and terrifying. Compared to humans, he seemed more like a devil. The nourishment of the Supreme Ancient Immortal Realms is truly more beneficial compared to the nourishment of the lower world. Right now, the desolate region is ownerless. I really have to thank you, Qin Wentian. The lips of the young man curled up in a cold smile. It was said that right now, Qin Wentian was busy dealing with the pressure from the Buddhist sect. Most probably, he didn't have the time to spare to deal with Qin Wentian. What are you so happy about? At this moment, a voice rang out. The young man turned his head and stared at the gigantic evil face in the sky. He coldly spoke, "Shut up. Since when is it your turn to interfere in my matters? Your matters are my matters." That gigantic face coldly spoke. "Ridiculous. Do you think I would believe your ridiculous words?" The young man mocked. "No matter if you believe it or not, I'm your previous incarnation. Do you know why you are so evil? Because, this is predestined. You are my reincarnation. This is your fate. From the day you were born, you were already destined to walk to this day." Scram! The young man roared. He didn't believe it. He was just him, Yu Changkong. "Hee, you will understand after you wake up." That gigantic face spoke again. After that, it slowly dissipated into nothingness, like it had never existed before. Chapter 1942. The things that happened in the desolate region were already extremely shocking, but they didn't attract too much attention. Because right now, the desolate region was no longer governed by anyone, and there was another matter that concerned the future of the supreme ancient immortal realms. It was rumored that the Western world had already persuaded the Qiankuan sect and Nine Heavens mystical palace to leave the Qin heavenly divine sect. The Buddhist sect personally paid a visit to these two hegemonic powers. Given how powerful the Western world was, even the Qiankuan sect and Nine Heavens mystical palace would have to give them some face, right? Because of these rumors, the atmosphere in the Qin heavenly divine sect became somewhat strange. Qin Wentian didn't ask the Qiankuan sect leader and Nine Heavens mystical maiden. If they really made a decision, Qin Wentian wouldn't hate them. After all, their relationship was merely an alliance, it wasn't as solid as one might imagine. Today, the Qiankuan sect leader and Nine Heavens mystical maiden came to Qin Wentian's side. Qin Wentian naturally warmly welcomed them. "Sect leader, Nine Heavens mystical maiden." Qin Wentian smiled. "Qin Wentian, we don't wish to say too much since we came here. Let's just say it directly. The Western world wants us to leave the Qin heavenly divine sect." The Qiankuan sect leader directly spoke. "Sect leader has agreed?" Qin Wentian asked. "My master has already agreed. The Western world promised that after the Buddhist sect controls the Heaven Vault, they would still allow the core members of my Qiankuan sect to enter the Heaven Vault for cultivation." The Qiankuan sect leader spoke, staring at Qin Wentian. However, he only saw that Qin Wentian's expression was incomparably calm. There was even a faint smile on his face as he spoke. "This is indeed an easy choice to make. I don't wish to persuade the old sect leader. Has Nine Heavens mystical maiden made the same decision as well?" Her beautiful eyes stared at Qin Wentian as she nodded lightly. Facing the powerful Western world, she didn't have a better choice. If she continued to form an alliance with Qin Wentian, the Western world and the supreme ancient immortal realms might target them. In the past, both powers didn't dare to act recklessly. But now, with the intervention of the Western world, the balance of power instantly tilted. The Qin heavenly divine sect was in an extremely disadvantageous situation. However, I can guarantee that the Nine Heavens mystical palace won't act against the Qin heavenly divine sect. The Nine Heavens mystical maiden added. My Qiankuan sect won't interfere as well. The Qiankuan sect leader nodded. Thank you, seniors, Qin Wentian said gratefully. Although he had lost two allies, at least they were not enemies. You don't blame us? The fairy of Jotian asked as she stared at Qin Wentian. Seniors, as the overlords of your respective territories, you naturally have to make the most correct decision. Back then, you formed an alliance with me because you wanted to enter the Heaven Vault. It's only normal for you to back out now. What's there to be resentful about? As long as we aren't enemies, let's part on good terms. Qin Wentian appeared to be very carefree. Refreshing. Sadly, I don't know if I would still have a chance to drink with you in the future. The Qiankuan sect leader laughed uproariously. Sect leader, if you want to drink, you can look for me anytime. Qin Wentian smiled. The Qiankuan sect leader nodded. After that, the two of them bid farewell and departed. Qin Wentian stared at their departing backs as a look of contemplation appeared on his face. At this moment, a snow-white figure leaped out and stood on Qin Wentian's shoulder. Her eyes were filled with unhappiness. Big brother Qin, you really don't mind? Purgatory also walked over, her gaze was cold. I'm willing to treat them as friends. However, since this is a transaction of benefits, it's only normal that they don't want to treat me as a friend. After all, this implicates the benefits of their sect. It's understandable. Qin Wendian casually spoke. How can they be so certain that the Western world would be able to seize the Heaven Vault? Jun Mengchen also walked over. Clearly, they had heard what happened earlier. Qin Wendian's close friends all stayed in the same region and would often come to look for him. The Western world, in addition to the strength of the supreme ancient immortal realms. The Qin Heavenly Divine Sect isn't even worth a mention when compared to them. Qin Wendian spoke. In the future, if the Western world doesn't manage to seize the Heaven Vault, let's see what the Qiankuan Sect and Nine Heavens Mystical Palace would think. At that time, senior brother, don't be soft-hearted and allow them to enter the Heaven Vault for cultivation. Also, those hypocritical bald donkeys, pretending to be compassionate. In my opinion, they are no different from the sinister Jiang clan of the Azure Mystic Immortal Realms back then. The monks from Wenxin Temple are more like esteemed monks. Jun Mengchen's tone was filled with unhappiness. Do you think that fellow Bujia is like an esteemed monk? A strange expression appeared on Qin Wendian's face as he laughed. When he thought of Bujia, black lines appeared on Jun Mengchen's face. Indeed, Bujia didn't seem like an esteemed monk. Ha! Qin Wendian laughed. The so-called Buddhist sect was merely a type of energy cultivation. Because people had different talents, they would walk on different paths. The Buddhist sect also acknowledged that there was no difference in the lives of all living beings. The experts from the Qiankuan sect and Nine Heavens Mystical Palace retreated from the Qin Heavenly Divine Sect. A storm was about to descend. The discussions about this matter in the Supreme Ancient Immortal Realms grew even more intense. Everyone felt that the Qin Heavenly Divine Sect only existed in name. Although a war hasn't erupted yet, with the intervention of the Western world, the Qin Heavenly Divine Sect would be easily destroyed. Seems like that majestic divine sect in the Boundless Sea region was built for nothing. Qin Wendian and the others most probably had to hide in the Heaven Vault again. Not only for the outside world, even those in the Qin Heavenly Divine Sect were filled with trepidation. Ever since the Qin Heavenly Divine Sect was established, many powers in the Heaven region have submitted to it. In fact, there were even many experts who joined the sect. But now that the Qin Heavenly Divine Sect was in danger, the intentions of many people were naturally revealed. Qin Wendian gathered Qiyu, the Southern Phoenix Matriarch and the others, telling them that they should use this opportunity to reorganize the Qin Heavenly Divine Sect, eliminating those with evil intentions. Everyone naturally understood Qin Wendian's meaning. They immediately started to reorganize the sect, telling their subordinates that the Qin Heavenly Divine Sect might face a great crisis in the future. If they wanted to leave, the Qin Heavenly Divine Sect would understand and wouldn't obstruct them. Many people left the Divine Sect. The Qin Heavenly Divine Sect had just been established, and because of the interference of the Western world, they were now in a situation of internal and external troubles. After that, the Western world sent a message to the Qin Heavenly Divine Sect, telling them to relocate and leave the Boundless Sea region. In addition, Qin Wendian had to open the Heaven Vault and hand over the method to control it. The hegemonic powers of the Supreme Ancient Immortal Realms wouldn't make things difficult for the Divine Sect. The Buddhist sect was merciful and wouldn't harm a single person. As this news circulated out, the gazes of the Supreme Ancient Immortal Realms once again focused on the Heaven Vault. The Western world sent a message to Qin Wendian, telling them to relocate. The Buddhist sect was merciful and wouldn't harm a single person. However, Qin Wendian had to hand over the Heaven Vault. This was the foundation of everything. In the Divine Sect, Qin Wendian's friends were all incomparably enraged when they learned of this news. They cursed the Western world for being shameless. The Buddhist sect was merciful. Hand over the secret of the Heaven Vault and the Divine Sect would relocate to other places in the Supreme Ancient Immortal Realms? How laughable. Once the heaven vault was gone, would the hegemonic powers of the supreme ancient immortal realms spare Qin Wendian and the others? The Buddhist sect was truly merciful because there was basically no need for them to act. There would be people who would settle everything. They only needed to command the pure land of bliss. The Qin heavenly divine sect didn't reply. Not replying could also be considered a reply. Without a doubt, Qin Wendian had rejected them. The vast majority of people in the Qin heavenly divine sect entered the heaven vault, preparing to face any situation that might happen. It seemed like everything was going to return to the past. It was just that right now, Qin Wendian's opponents were even more powerful than before. At the boundless sea coast, experts gathered here. Back then, there were many times where experts from the supreme ancient immortal realms gathered here. Now, a storm was brewing again. At the shore, the sea wind gusted intensely as the waves churned. In the air, a group of figures suddenly appeared. Their auras were extremely terrifying, like they were the hegemons of an area. "They're here." Someone spoke. These were experts from the Thunder Clan. Their target was the Qin heavenly divine sect. In the air, another group of experts arrived. The person in the lead had a cold expression and was wielding a halberd. Qin Zheng from the Qin clan. He is even colder than before. Heaven's son Qin Dangtian didn't come. Could it be that he is still cultivating outside? Someone stared at the air. The Qin clan had concealed themselves for many years and now, they appeared once again. This time around, they were still targeting Qin Wendian. More and more experts gathered at the boundless sea coast. All of them seemed to have some sort of tacit understanding and were waiting. Only after the experts from the various powers arrived did they step out together, flying towards the Qin heavenly divine sect. There's no one from the Western world who came. Everyone discovered that there were no Buddhist cultivators. The Western world didn't interfere at all. The powerful Western world only needed to issue orders, they didn't even need to show their faces. This was the source of their confidence. However, if they really wanted to take down the heaven vault, the Western world would have to be the one controlling it. This was the consensus of the experts from the supreme ancient immortal realms. At the border between the Qin heavenly divine sect and the boundless sea territory, Qin Wendian stood in the air, calmly staring at the experts arriving. The experts stopped not far away from him. Both sides didn't speak. The silence and pressure in the air caused people to feel even more fear. Qin Zheng and his wife stared at Qin Wendian, their eyes flashing with the flames of hatred. Qin Wendian caused the Qin clan to decline. On the day of their son's wedding, he destroyed half of the Qin clan. The wind and clouds howled as the waves churned wildly. The waves slammed against the shore, creating 1,000 layers of waves. The violent qi currents clashed in the air, as though a destructive force was brewing in the air. At this moment, black clouds suddenly appeared in the sky. These clouds were so dark that it caused people to feel a sense of pressure. They were like the color of death, growing darker and darker. Michem. Everyone inclined their heads and stared at the sky as a strange look appeared on their faces. The experts from the supreme ancient immortal realms frowned. What was going on with these black clouds? The black clouds continued to gather, the darkness grew increasingly dark and terrifying, as though it was the color of hell. Even the heavenly deities felt a terrifying pressure bearing down on them. Under this black dome of heaven, even breathing became extremely difficult, extremely unbearable. Who is it? A heavenly deity roared, his voice shaking the heavens and earth. The violent sound waves wanted to disperse the black clouds in the sky, but the black clouds didn't disperse at all. Qin Wendian also had a strange look on his face. He inclined his head and stared at the sky. What was going on? It seemed like the other party also didn't know where these black clouds came from. The black clouds grew more and more terrifying, about to cover the entire sky. At this moment, the black clouds churned and seemed to have dimmed a little. But soon after, a scene appeared in the black clouds. It was a world that was filled with deathly stillness and oppressiveness. Chapter 1943. What is this? The heavenly deities of the various hegemonic powers all had looks of shock on their faces. The entire sky was covered by a dark deathly stillness. Also, that deathly stillness seemed to transform into a scene of a world. Just when they were feeling bewildered, that deathly stillness continued to transform as living creatures appeared. It was like there was a vast expanse of heaven and earth with heavenly deities descending from the sky, wanting to annihilate all existences. For a period of time, the heavens and earth wept tears of blood. It was unknown how many people died, it was like everyone in this world was being slaughtered. This scene caused everyone to feel an extreme pressure. This is... Someone seemed to have thought of something as his heart pounded violently. Just as the sound of that person's voice faded, a pitch-black silhouette seemed to walk out from the deathly silent world. After that, a second, a third, and many more silhouettes appeared from the deathly silent picture scroll. Their eyes were lifeless, and there was no sign of life. They were like corpses, not living creatures, but like an army of undead. "It's him!" An extremely shocked voice rang out. That heavenly deity was so frightened that he involuntarily took a step back. From this, one could see how strong the shock in his heart was. He has returned. But why would he appear in the boundless sea region, below the heaven vault? They didn't understand. On the boundless sea coast, countless people exchanged mutual glances. Some people seemed to have guessed something as their expressions drastically changed. They spoke in terror. How can this be possible? Who is it? Some young experts didn't understand, they still didn't know who it was exactly. Grim Reaper. An old man spoke in a solemn voice. These two words were like a taboo existence in the supreme ancient immortal realms. Almost no one had mentioned it before, it only existed in an ancient legend. I once heard my ancestors speak of it before. The Grim Reaper once led an army of the dead and slaughtered his way into the supreme ancient immortal realms. It was unknown how many experts he killed, causing the lives of the people to be plunged into misery and suffering. That old man seemed to be narrating an ancient legend as his expression turned solemn. Who is the Grim Reaper? Someone had never heard of the Grim Reaper before. He is someone from ancient Azure Mystic. Countless years ago, ancient Azure Mystic was once destroyed. The Grim Reaper was a peak character of ancient Azure Mystic. He once slaughtered his way into the supreme ancient immortal realms, wanting to take revenge for the destruction of Azure Mystic. It's rumored that the reason why Azure Mystic was sealed until now might have something to do with the Grim Reaper. The old man's words caused the hearts of countless people on the boundless sea coast to tremble. To many of them, this was the first time they had heard of the Grim Reaper. He inclined his head and stared at the scene in the air. The person who came was actually the legendary existence that once killed his way into the supreme ancient immortal realms. Now, he has descended once again. The experts of the top forces naturally knew more than ordinary people. They already knew who was coming, and their hearts were extremely restless. Why did the Grim Reaper appear in the boundless sea region when they were about to deal with Qin Wendian? Could it be because of the Western world? Is it the Grim Reaper? Qin Zheng looked up at the sky and asked. There was no response. The sky was covered by a dark and silent world. The cultivators were not in the mood to deal with Qin Wendian at the moment. In the Qin Heavenly Divine Sect, Qin Wendian stood at the boundary between the Divine Sect and the sea region. He was also staring at the sky, and when he heard Qin Zheng's words, his heart involuntarily trembled. Was he the Grim Reaper? The last time he returned to Qing Xian, his divine thoughts covered the whole of Qing Xian, but he could not find him. Are you the one who once used Qing Xian to threaten Qin Wendian? At this moment, a voice rang out from the world of darkness, causing Qin Zheng's heart to tremble. Back then when the various experts surrounded the heaven vault, the Ox chieftain of the divine Ox clan suggested that he use the Qingqing realm to threaten Qin Wendian. Qin Zheng didn't expect that the Grim Reaper actually knew of this. At that time, Qin Zheng basically didn't expect that the Grim Reaper, who hadn't appeared for countless years, was still around and was paying attention to the movements of the supreme ancient immortal realms. Maybe, he had always been in the Azure Mystic immortal realms. Back then when the seal on ancient Azure Mystic was lifted, he might have been the one who released the news. Back then, because of the matter regarding the Heaven Vault, I had no choice but to do so. I wouldn't really have such thoughts. Qin Zheng replied. The current Qin clan was no longer the same as before. His father Qin Ding was exiled. Right now, his confidence in speaking was much weaker. Before the Grim Reaper, he didn't dare to be arrogant. Since you don't have such thoughts, just scram then. Qin Wentian is the successor of ancient Azure Mystic. A voice rang out from the dark sky. Qin Zheng's heart trembled violently. The experts of the Supreme Ancient Immortal Realms were all shocked as well. Qin Wentian was the Heaven Empyrean of Azure Mystic. Many people knew about this. However, he was actually the successor of ancient Azure Mystic. What status did he have exactly? The son of Qin Yuanfeng of the Qin clan, the grandson of Luotian Chuan, the successor of the Heaven Vault, the successor of the Tiandao Sacred Academy, and now, the successor of ancient Azure Mystic. All these legendary characters came out for him, appearing once again in the Supreme Ancient Immortal Realms. The Western world persuaded the Qiankuan sect and Nine Heavens Mystical Palace to back out. The Tiandao Sacred Academy also didn't appear. Everything seemed to be set in stone, but at this moment, an even more terrifying character appeared. The Grim Reaper. Although no one knew how strong Headmaster Yi of the Tiandao Sacred Academy was and how strong the Grim Reaper was, but after all, the headmaster of the Tiandao Sacred Academy had never threatened the lives of any heavenly deities of the Supreme Ancient Immortal Realms before. He seemed to be an otherworldly existence and had only appeared to protect Qin Wentian once. But the Grim Reaper was extremely famous since ancient times. From the perspective of everyone, the threat he posed was clearly far greater compared to the headmaster of the Tiandao Sacred Academy. It's really him. Qin Wentian inclined his head, feeling extremely shocked in his heart. He didn't expect that his conjecture was right. That crazy old freak was actually the Grim Reaper who caused the entire Supreme Ancient Immortal Realms to tremble in fear upon hearing his name. Other than that old freak, Qin Wentian truly couldn't think of anyone else. It's him. In Qin Wentian's mind, a voice rang out. This was the voice of the Skybreak heavenly deity. His voice was filled with boundless emotions. He didn't expect that a strand of his will wouldn't be destroyed and he would still have a chance to meet him. Qin Wentian did obtain his inheritance. In that case, the efforts of the heavenly deities of ancient Azure Mystic wouldn't be wasted. In addition, Qin Wentian didn't let them down and was growing stronger and stronger. This is the meaning of the Western world. At this moment, a young heavenly deity spoke. As the sound of his voice faded, the gazes of many turned to him as strange expressions appeared on their faces. Shut up. A heavenly deity beside him transmitted his voice over. And as expected, as the sound of his voice faded, a terrifying stifling pressure bore down on him. He only felt a pair of eyes staring at him, so cold. Scram. As the sound of the word scram rang out, it was incomparably cold. The heavenly deities exchanged mutual glances, no one dared to retort. After hesitating for a moment, a heavenly deity spoke, farewell. After speaking, that heavenly deity actually turned and departed. After that, many heavenly deities from the peak powers left respectively. The appearance of the Grim Reaper directly disrupted their plans. It would be extremely difficult for them to continue to deal with Qin Wentian. No one dared to take the risk. Even after countless years, his ferocious name still lingered in the air. On the boundless sea coast, everyone saw the experts from the peak powers leaving just like that. They came in such a grandiose manner, but they actually left with their tails between their legs. They couldn't help but to feel shocked. Was the Grim Reaper really so powerful? What sort of existence was he? Also, it was the Western world who wanted Qin Wentian to hand over the Heaven Vault. Could it be that the Grim Reaper was a terrifying existence that could contend against the Western world? After all the experts left, the black clouds that seemed as though they wanted to collapse the sky dissipated. The sky returned to normal. The sea breeze continued as usual, there was no longer any pressure. It was like no one had ever been here before. Staring at the blue sky, many people felt as though they were in a different world. Everything felt extremely surreal. Princess Kitamura's figure appeared beside Qin Wentian. Her beautiful eyes stared up at the sky as she asked in a low voice, "Is it him?" "MHM," Qin Wentian nodded. Only the two of them knew who the Grim Reaper was. "Why didn't he appear?" Princess Kitamura asked. It was like no one had ever come to the sky before. "It's not like you don't know what sort of person that madman is. He's always acting like a madman. When did he pass by?" Qin Wentian cursed in a low voice as a smile appeared on his face. Princess Kitamura stared at Qin Wentian. She had a speechless look on her face. However, Qin Wentian's words seemed to make sense. That madman was indeed a madman. In the Western world, the pure land of bliss, the land of the Buddhist sect. Auspicious light enveloped the sky, exuding a sense of tranquility. This was the holy land of the Buddhist sect, capable of enlightening all living beings. Every day, countless people would head in this direction and worship. But today, the worship of the people turned into fear. Because, that auspicious holy land, the pure land of bliss, was now enveloped by darkness. It was as though countless dead spirits had appeared in the sky. In the pure land of bliss, numerous Buddhist cultivators walked out. Their countenances were extremely unsightly as they inclined their heads and stared at the darkness that enveloped this holy land. Who exactly was it that was so audacious? Numerous ancient Buddhas were surrounded by golden bodies. The golden light radiating from them seemed to be able to pierce through the darkness. However, the darkness was too thick. Even when the golden light pierced through, it was unable to disperse it. In that world of darkness, countless vengeful spirits appeared, howling and howling, causing this holy land to transform into a land of purgatory. Boom! The sound of a bell rang out as more and more Buddhas walked out. After that, a voice rang out, "After so many years, benefactor's resentment is still as intense as ever." The holy land of the Buddhist Tao, the pure land of bliss, worshipped by the people of the world. When you guys spread your Tao, when you spread kindness, have you ever felt any guilt in your hearts? A voice rang out from the darkness, enveloping this boundless space. Many Buddhist cultivators pressed their palms together and chanted, as though they wanted to disperse the darkness. "Lodge Lord, since you have returned to the supreme ancient immortal realms, how many sins do you want to commit?" That ancient voice rang out once more, filled with benevolence and kindness. It was as though just by listening to this voice, one would be able to sense the will to bemoan the state of the universe and pity the fate of mankind. Back then when Azure Mystic was destroyed, how many vengeful spirits were there? A voice in the darkness replied. "If there is hell in this world, why don't you all enter it?" Chapter 1944. If the words of the Grim Reaper were to be known by the people of the world, it would surely cause a huge storm. From his words, one could clearly infer that the Western world was a participant in the world-ending battle back then. In addition, the Grim Reaper's resentment was extremely heavy, asking these Buddhist cultivators why they didn't go to hell. From this, one could see that the Buddhist sect wasn't just an ordinary participant. Buddha is merciful. When it's time to go to hell, one should naturally go to hell. Everything depends on karma and fate. As for the countless vengeful souls in Azure Mystic back then, if it wasn't for the persistence of Sir Benefactor and the Heaven Lord, things wouldn't have ended up like this. The voice from the Buddhist sect rang out once more. Laughter rang out from the darkness. "What a good karma and fate. I will wait for the karma of the Western world." "Sir, what is your purpose for coming to the Western world today?" "Let me tell everyone. The things you guys did to Azure Mystic in the past, do you want to do it again to the successor of Azure Mystic? If something happens to Qin Wentian, I will definitely turn the Western world into a true hell, turning it into rivers of blood." A cold voice that seemed to come from purgatory rang out, causing the hearts of the Buddhist cultivators to tremble. These great Buddhas knew that the words of the Grim Reaper wouldn't be an alarmist. He would definitely do what he said. Qin Wentian, the inheritor of ancient Azure Mystic. As expected, there was karma in everything. The Grim Reaper wanted to protect Qin Wentian, allowing him to continue growing. The darkness gradually dispersed, and auspicious golden light pierced through the dark sky. The dark clouds dissipated, and not long after, the pure and holy light once again enveloped the pure land of Buddhism. It was so tranquil and auspicious, like a paradise on earth. The golden light illuminated the world. This was a land of faith, a land of extreme bliss, untainted by the filth of the world. That darkness seemed to have never appeared before. It vanished without a trace, formless and formless. But this time, his appearance was already telling the world that he has returned and he was in the supreme ancient immortal realms. No power dared to ignore his existence. Even the Western world didn't dare to do so. Everything that happened back then, the Western world was clearer than any other power. Back then, when ancient Azure Mystic was destroyed, the supreme ancient immortal realms also faced a calamity. In that calamity, it was unknown how many powers were annihilated. Everywhere the armies of the dead passed by, everything would be turned into ashes. Dong. In the Buddhist sacred land, the pure lands of bliss, the sound of a bell rang out. It was as though a great Buddha was gathering all the Buddhist cultivators for a discussion. The various hegemonic powers were all observing. After the Grim Reaper forced them to retreat, everyone was waiting, observing the movements of the Western world. Very soon, they received news that not only did the Grim Reaper come to the Heaven Vault, he also appeared in the Western world at the same time. No one knew if his true body was in the Boundless Sea region or the Western world. Maybe, his true body wasn't there. The name of the Grim Reaper started to circulate through the supreme ancient immortal realms. Only a very few people knew that there was actually such a powerful existence in the world, able to easily intimidate the experts from the various peak powers. Also, he used darkness to envelop the Western world. To the people of the world, this was simply an inconceivable thing. Yet, there was actually someone who did it. Also, regardless of the hegemonic powers of the supreme ancient immortal realms or the Western world, all of them were extremely fearful of him. After that, news about the origins of the Grim Reaper also circulated. It was rumored that he was none other than the supreme existence who sealed the Azure Mystic immortal realms, not allowing experts from the supreme ancient immortal realms to enter. He was a supreme character from ancient Azure Mystic countless years ago. He once led his army of dead spirits to destroy the supreme ancient heavenly deity race, and many heavenly deities died in his hands. After countless years, he appeared once again in the supreme ancient immortal realms. But this time around, he appeared to protect his successor, or rather, the successor of ancient Azure Mystic, Qin Wentian. The Heaven Vault was safe once again. It stubbornly persisted despite the experts of the supreme ancient immortal realms surrounding it. Just when the people of the world thought that the Qin Heavenly Divine Sect would be razed to flat ground, the Qin Heavenly Divine Sect didn't suffer any losses at all. In fact, the experts from the other hegemonic powers didn't even dare to attack them anymore. Back then, Headmaster Yi of the Tiandao Sacred Academy only acted. But this time around, the Grim Reaper was clearly warning the people of the world. Who would dare to act so casually? Within the Qin Heavenly Divine Sect, Qin Wentian naturally also learned of the Grim Reaper's arrival. He sighed in his heart, he didn't expect that old freak to be so powerful to such an extent. The Western world was a power that could force the Qiankuan sect and Nine Heavens mystical palace to retreat with a single sentence. Yet, the Grim Reaper actually transformed into darkness and descended upon them. At this moment, in the sea region outside the Qin Heavenly Divine Sect, a figure could be seen sitting on a boat, drifting towards the direction of the Qin Heavenly Divine Sect. The figure on the boat looked extremely sloppy. His messy hair casually draped over his shoulders, blocking his eyes. He was clad in an extremely simple gray robe that seemed extremely old. There was no aura radiating from him at all, he was like a beggar, extremely inconspicuous. The boat drifted until it reached the outskirts of the Qin Heavenly Divine Sect. He actually got off the boat and walked towards the interior of the Divine Sect. Someone stopped him and spoke, "The Qin Heavenly Divine Sect doesn't allow outsiders to enter. Please return." The sloppy old man ran his fingers through his long hair, revealing an aged face as well as turbid eyes. He lazily spoke, "Get your sect leader to come and see me." What arrogant words. The guard's gaze froze as he stared at the sloppy old man. He was silently musing that this fellow couldn't be a madman, right? What sort of place was the Qin Heavenly Divine Sect? What sort of character was their sect leader? He was a character the entire Supreme Ancient Immortal Realms wanted to deal with. This beggar-like old man actually wanted the sect leader to come and see him. "Old man, it's better for you to leave. Don't joke around like this." The guard waved his hand. If it wasn't for the fact that the sloppy old man was an old man, he would have directly acted against him. How dare the sloppy old man be so disrespectful to their sect leader? "Okay, I'll leave then. Don't beg me to come back." The old man actually turned and left in a carefree manner. This caused the guard to have a puzzled look on his face. Beg him to come back? There was an 80% chance that this old man was a madman. At this moment, a burst of spatial fluctuations could be felt. In an instant, an extraordinarily handsome silhouette appeared out of thin air, exuding a transcendent aura. When the guard saw who it was, his body trembled. He bowed and greeted, "Sect Lord." The person who came was none other than Qin Wentian. Only to see Qin Wentian calling out to the old man on the boat, "Senior." The boat stopped. The old man turned his head and smiled at Qin Wentian. Qin Wentian's silhouette flashed and appeared beside the old man. He spoke in a trembling voice, "Since Senior is already here, how can I leave? Come, quickly enter the divine sect." The old man stared at Qin Wentian with a strange look in his eyes. "When did you become so polite? I can't afford it." In the past, Qin Wentian wasn't polite at all to him. "Senior, what are you saying?" In the past, Junior was young and ignorant. "Isn't it because I know my mistakes and want to change?" "Senior, please come in." Qin Wentian smiled. The guard opened his eyes wide when he saw this scene, thinking that his eyes were playing tricks on him. Was this still their sect leader? He actually seemed to be fawning. How would this fellow know what sort of character this old man was? Qin Wentian was very clear now. What a joke, this old man was a peak existence in the Supreme Ancient Immortal Realms, someone who stood at the very peak and dared to enter the Western world. Also, leaving aside how strong he was, just based on the fact that he taught him the undying scripture and the fact that he saved his life in the past, as well as the fact that he resolved the storm this time around, lowering his attitude a little. Earlier, there was someone who didn't allow me to enter. The crazy old man narrowed his eyes as he stared at the guard. The guard started. He glanced at Qin Wentian only to see Qin Wentian glaring at him. "I'm begging Senior, there's nothing to be embarrassed about. A few days ago, Senior came to the Heaven Vault and prevented a calamity from befalling our divine sect." The guard's body trembled violently as he thought back to the terrifying scene a few days ago. The sky was covered by darkness and the Grim Reaper descended, suppressing the experts of the Supreme Ancient Immortal Realms and telling everyone to scram with a single sentence. This sloppy old man before him, was he that terrifying existence? When he thought of this, his heart pounded madly. Damn, he actually chased the Grim Reaper out? Who was the crazy old man here? "Senior, as a great person, please don't hold grudges against me. Why must you lower yourself to the same level as Junior? Senior, please enter the divine sect." After the guard recovered from his shock, he bowed and spoke as politely as he could. What a joke, this old man was definitely the strongest existence he had ever seen in his entire life. "Is the little lass Biming in the divine sect?" the crazy old man asked. "She is. I will get Biming to come and meet Senior now." Qin Wentian. He and Biming could be considered half a successor of the crazy old man. Although he kept cursing and scolding the old man when they were tortured back then, he was still very grateful after they exited the forbidden ground. Now, there was no need to say anything more. "Emicham, I'm here to see Biming. If you are the only one here, I wouldn't be interested at all." The crazy old man calmly spoke. He placed his hair on his shoulders and walked forward with his hands behind his back. He finally exuded some imposing aura, but when compared to the weight of the two words Grim Reaper, his aura was still too lacking. However, Qin Wendian knew that this was the personality of the crazy old man. As for the words the crazy old man said, it was fine to just listen. If the crazy old man wasn't interested, would he personally act for him and head to the Western world? Naturally, Qin Wendian wouldn't expose him. He smiled. Senior is right. Oh right, Senior, this junior has already mastered the Undying Scripture. Does Senior have any innate techniques that are similar to the Undying Scripture? Why don't you impart them to me so that I can protect myself? The crazy old man's face darkened as he stared at Qin Wendian. Why did he choose such a shameless inheritor? Upon seeing the look of disdain in the old freak's eyes, Qin Wendian smiled. He didn't mind and continued, "It's fine if you pass it to Yu Huang." Scram. The crazy old freak spat out a word. This bastard, did he think he was an idiot? What was the difference between passing it to Yu Huang or him? It's fine if you don't have any. Back then Senior casually gave this junior a black rod and it can be considered suitable for me to use. However, Baiming Yu Huang doesn't have any suitable treasures on her. Senior, why don't you? Qin Wendian continued to shamelessly ask for treasures. This peak-level existence who had lived for countless years actually appeared. If he didn't extort some money from him, wouldn't it be too much of a loss? Chapter 1945. The crazy old freak glared at Qin Wendian. This bastard really knew how to extort money from others. I know what I'm doing, there's no need for you to care. The crazy old freak coldly spoke. That's only natural. What sort of character is Senior? I'm sure the gift you gave Yu Huang wouldn't be any weaker than the god-slaying rod. Qin Wendian trembled as he laughed, appearing somewhat shameless. However, if he could obtain a treasure on par with the god-slaying rod, so what if he was a little shameless? His skin was simply so thick. Within the Qin Heavenly Divine Sect, Princess Kitamura also saw the crazy old freak. A strange look flashed in her eyes. He was still as sloppy as before, no matter how she looked at him, he was just like an old man. She really had no way to put him together with that supreme expert who forced the experts of the supreme ancient immortal realms to retreat with a single sentence. This feeling was really strange. Yu Huang, Senior just promised to give you a treasure. Quickly thank Senior. Qin Wendian reminded when he saw Yu Huang in a daze. Yu Huang's beautiful eyes blinked as she stared at Qin Wendian. Upon seeing Qin Wendian blinking at her, she understood in her heart. She was somewhat speechless but she still spoke in a light voice, "It has been so many years since we last met. Senior's elegance is still the same as before." Elegance? What elegance do I have? Seems like you have learned bad things from this fellow. The crazy old freak stared at Princess Kitamura as he spoke, causing Princess Kitamura to feel somewhat awkward. A bitter smile appeared in her cold eyes as she glared at Qin Wendian. How's your cultivation of the death scripture? The crazy old freak asked. Not too bad. Yu Huang replied in a light voice. She also didn't know what level her cultivation had reached. The death scripture is a supreme innate art. Although its survivability isn't as good as his undying scripture, it isn't weaker in other aspects. The reason why I imparted the undying scripture to him is because I know that this fellow's talent isn't good enough and he needs to protect his life frequently. The crazy old freak impolitely spoke, not giving any face to Qin Wendian. Qin Wendian smiled wryly and was somewhat speechless. So, the reason why he had taught him the death scripture was to save his life? Was he afraid that he would die too quickly? As for his talent, most probably no one in the vast supreme ancient immortal realms would think so. Has this kid bullied you all these years? The crazy old man asked again. Princess Kitamura's beautiful eyes froze as she stared at Qin Wendian. This question seemed to be somewhat ambiguous, and she didn't know what to say for a moment. Bully? Qin Wendian's face darkened. This question, How can I bully Yu Huang? Senior is thinking too much. Qin Wentian smiled. No. Princess Kitamura blinked her eyes and looked at Qin Wentian. Qin Wentian blinked. Hee, tell me, I'll teach him a lesson for you. The eyes of the crazy old man stared at Qin Wentian, causing Qin Wentian to shiver. In the past, when the crazy old man was abusing him in the forbidden ground, this was the same look in his eyes. Although the current Qin Wentian was already strong enough, he still felt a little weak when facing against this crazy old man who dared to head to the Western world. No need, it doesn't seem to be a big deal. Princess Kitamura smiled. Her smile was like the melting of ice and snow, extremely beautiful. Staring at the two juniors, the crazy old man nodded slightly. He took out a pearl that shone with resplendent light. There seemed to be an unfathomable amount of energy contained within. Qin Wentian and Princess Kitamura could both sense the powerful soul energy contained within. The crazy old man was proficient in soul energy. The god-slaying rod was specialized in soul attacks. Could this pearl be the same? Take it and refine it when you return. Don't let it down. The crazy old man stretched out his hand and passed the pearl to Princess Kitamura. His eyes were heavy, and when he saw the expression on the crazy old man's face, Qin Wentian felt joy in his heart. Seems like this treasure is extraordinary, or the crazy old man wouldn't be so serious. Given his strength, most probably, ordinary divine weapons wouldn't be able to catch his eye. It was the same even for divine weapons. Princess Kitamura nodded seriously. She received the pearl and carefully kept it. From the expression of the crazy old man, she could sense that this pearl was extraordinary. She didn't want to let it down. Most probably, this pearl was extremely precious to the crazy old man. Bring me to the heaven vault to take a look. The two of you accompany me, don't let anyone else follow us. The crazy old man spoke again. He could already sense that there were many people heading their way. Right. Qin Wentian nodded. The crazy old man had lived in seclusion in the forbidden grounds of the Dark North Immortal Mountain for countless years. Most probably, he was already used to being alone. There weren't many people who had seen him before, and his personality was naturally a little strange. To the crazy old man, in the Qin Heavenly Divine Sect, he was only acquainted with Qin Wentian and Princess Kitamura. He most probably wasn't interested in the others. Qin Wentian transmitted his voice to the people in the surroundings. Everyone instantly understood and dispersed. Although they were very curious about this legendary character, since the crazy old man didn't wish to meet them, there was nothing they could do. It was just that it was a pity. If the crazy old man wanted to enter the heaven vault, Qin Wentian naturally wouldn't have any objections. He and Princess Kitamura followed the crazy old man and passed through the ancient heaven vault pathway, arriving at the boundless starry space of the 9 heavenly layers. The three of them strolled through the starry space. The crazy old man walked in front with his hands clasped behind his back. He inclined his head and stared at the boundless starry space as he sighed, how majestic. Even someone as powerful as him had never been to the 9 heavenly layers before. Although he had such a thought before, he didn't put it into practice. Right now, he was thinking that given his current cultivation base, if he didn't use the heaven vault, it was unknown how long it would take for him to travel from the ground to the 9 heavenly layers. During these years, he had always been protecting ancient Azure Mystic. In truth, he rarely left Azure Mystic, let alone exploring the starry space. I heard that you obtained God King Shi's inheritance. Qin Wentian nodded. This heaven vault was transformed from God King Shi's body and will. What an incredible character. Back then, I once made an agreement with him to explore the starry space. But after that, the changes in Azure Mystic occurred. Who would have thought that today, half of my wish back then would be fulfilled? Only I managed to come here. The crazy old man's voice was filled with melancholy. His gaze seemed to be able to penetrate through time, wanting to see the people of the past. At this moment, he suddenly turned and stared at Yu Huang. His old eyes turned extremely deep, flickering with love as he spoke in a light voice. If you have any questions you don't understand on the path of cultivation, you can ask her in your mind. She will be able to help you dispel your doubts. Princess Kitamura felt somewhat puzzled, but she still nodded her head. The person the crazy old man was referring to was naturally her master. Her master was a powerful heavenly deity from ancient Azure mystic. Her master was currently in the form of a will in her mind. Senior, I've read through the dossiers regarding the world-ending battle, but there are still many things that I'm unclear about. What happened back then exactly? Qin Wentian asked. I don't wish to mention the past anymore. But there's an enemy we have to destroy no matter what. Everything that happened back then was started by them. The crazy old man spoke. Who? Qin Wentian's eyes flashed. The Western world. The crazy old man stared at the sky as he spoke. Qin Wentian's body trembled. The main culprit of the world-ending battle back then was actually the Western world. The crazy old man could ignore the other participants of the battle, only saying that the Western world had to be destroyed no matter what. From this, one could very well imagine what sort of role the Western world played in the world-ending battle of ancient Azure mystic. But all of this, even in the Heavenly Tao library of the Tiandao Sacred Academy, there were no records of this. Why did they do this? Qin Wentian asked. Although there were many viewpoints in the ancient scrolls, the crazy old man was someone who personally experienced it. His words were the truth. Qin Wentian had never believed that the Western world was a merciful place. If not, why would they do something like forceful seizing, forcing the Qinkuan sect and Nine Heavens mystical palace to back out and gathering so many experts here? The Western world only needed to control everything from behind the scenes. They didn't even need to act personally. But even if they weren't merciful, Qin Wentian also found it hard to imagine that the main culprit behind the destruction of an entire world was actually the Buddhic energy of the Western world. The Buddhist sect is particular about karma and faith. Why do people of the world cultivate? To transcend everything. In that era, there was one person in the Western world who was the closest to transcending. The crazy old freak slowly spoke. Ever since the supreme ancient immortal realms were split into 8 regions, the 8 god kings all sought to transcend. The methods they used to pursue transcendence were all different. In that era, because of various reasons, only the god king of the universe region remained in the supreme ancient immortal realms. Hence, ambition naturally grew. There were some people who wanted to become the supreme ancient immortal realms and unify the 33 immortal realms. They wanted to spread their faith in the 33 immortal realms, making everyone in the world believe in them. Hence, he instigated that war and almost achieved his goal. Azure Mystic was destroyed and the various regions of the supreme ancient immortal realms suffered heavy losses. Many powers were annihilated, but most probably, he himself didn't expect that he would suffer heavy injuries as well. Hence, this war was a lose-lose situation. The entire supreme ancient immortal realms lost. The crazy old man's expression was cold. He slowly spoke, and now, he seems to be about to reappear. Seems like his injuries are about to fully recover. In that case, his next goal will not change. The heaven vault you are in is extremely important, it will be the crux for him to achieve his goal. Qin Wentian's expression froze. He didn't expect there to be such a hidden story behind this. The crazy old man spoke of, was he referring to the God King level existence from the universe region? The universe region was the only power that ruled over a region. Also, it ruled over 4 lower worlds. However, the crazy old man told him that this wasn't the goal of the universe region. They wanted all 33 immortal realms to believe in the Buddhist Tao. But once, there was actually someone who could heavily injure the God King of the Western world, suppressing his ambitions for countless years. From this, one could very well imagine how powerful the imperishable Heaven Lord was back then. Seems like the saints of the Buddhist sect still had no way to foresee heavenly secrets. And now, a storm arose once more. From the hidden meaning of the crazy old man's words, his heaven vault would no longer be peaceful. Chapter 1946. Since that existence from the Western world had such ambitions, controlling the heaven vault would make it easier for him to achieve it. In that case, in truth, no matter if the experts from the supreme ancient immortal realms went to pay a visit or not, the Western world would act sooner or later. Maybe, the visit this time around gave the Western world an excuse to act. In fact, they might even stand behind the scenes. That existence from the universe region, how strong was he back then? Qin Wentian asked. Although he had fought against many heavenly deities before and knew that the disparity in the heavenly deity realm was extremely great, how strong were the god kings of the universe region? Did they pursue the peak of the heavenly Tao? From what he knew, the two god kings of the 8 regions back then didn't transcend. If not, the Time King wouldn't have traversed the past and the future to search for the Tao of transcendence. God King She wouldn't pursue the Tao of transcendence. As for fate, their bodies transformed into the heaven vault. Clearly, they didn't manage to take that final step. Or, it was unknown whether that final step existed or not. The only person Qin Wentian could think of was that mysterious white-robed young man who shattered a constellation with a single finger. Even now, Qin Wentian didn't know what step that young man had reached exactly. The crazy old freak stared at the sky, as though he was reminiscing about the past. After that, he spoke in a light voice, very powerful. The Buddhist sect has many supreme great Taoists that have unfathomable abilities. For example, karma, samsara, the past, the future. They are all extremely terrifying. Qin Wentian's expression froze. The Western world was actually so terrifying. I've also met a supreme existence before. Even now, I don't know how strong he is. However, for people at that realm, shouldn't they be able to transcend the world? Why would they still care about worldly matters? Qin Wentian didn't understand. That mysterious white-robed young man didn't care about worldly matters at all. In fact, Headmaster Yi of the Tiandao Sacred Academy also didn't care about worldly matters and focused on his cultivation. I've already told you earlier. The Buddhist sect cultivates karma, collecting faith and karma. This is one of their methods. From what I know, that existence wants to dominate the supreme ancient immortal realms. When everyone in the supreme ancient immortal realms believes in the Buddhist Tao and believes in him, he might be able to transcend. Qin Wentian's countenance stiffened. So that's the case, it's actually for the sake of cultivation. If that's the case, then his ambition will never cease. No wonder the ancient records in the Heavenly Tao Library stated that the Buddhist sect's rule over the universe region was deeply rooted. The people of the world believed in the Buddhist Tao and in fact, the Buddhist sect was the only religion in the 4 lower realms they ruled. The Buddhist Tao was supreme and had a transcendent status no matter where it was. No other domain's rule could be compared to the Buddhist sect. The Western world wanted the all-heaven immortal realms to believe in the Buddhist Tao so that it would be easier for them to transcend. After the conversation between Qin Wentian and the crazy old freak, he felt a pressure as heavy as a mountain. It felt like what he was facing now wasn't just the experts of the supreme ancient immortal realms, there was also the Western world. Also, the Western world had god kings and was the strongest place in the supreme ancient immortal realms. Right now, it was unknown how many heavenly deities there were in the Western world. The mysterious and unknown Western world was something he had to face. Leaving aside the fact that they coveted the heaven vault, just the destruction of ancient Azure Mystic was already unforgivable. An entire world was destroyed. This was simply unimaginable. The Buddhist sect talked about karma. Why were the Buddhists of the Western world not afraid of karma? Senior, what level has your cultivation base reached? Qin Wentian asked. The crazy old freak glanced at Qin Wentian but he didn't reply. This heaven vault is connected to the 9 heavenly layers. In the future, if Senior cultivates here, there would be a day when you would be able to transcend. Qin Wentian smiled. You want me to stay here to protect you? The crazy old freak calmly spoke. Qin Wentian didn't feel awkward even though his thoughts were seen through. He smiled, isn't it because the enemy is too strong? Senior isn't here and if that God King from the universe region truly recovers, how can I be his opponent? It's fine if something happens to me, but Senior has to consider Yu Huang. Princess Kitamura rolled her eyes at Qin Wentian. This fellow was actually using her as an excuse. However, when she saw the other side of Qin Wentian, she felt that it was extremely funny. Only the crazy old freak would be able to deal with him. Back then, when they entered the forbidden ground of the Dark North Immortal Mountain, Qin Wentian must have suffered a lot in order to obtain the inheritance. What? You still want me to protect your woman? The crazy old freak glared at Qin Wentian. Qin Wentian started there. He stealthily glanced at Princess Kitamura only to see that Princess Kitamura was also stunned. Her beautiful eyes exchanged a glance with Qin Wentian, and after that, a look of panic flashed in her eyes. She shifted her gaze away as her hands involuntarily clutched the corner of her robes. She who had always been calm seemed to be a little nervous because of a single sentence from the crazy old freak. Qin Wentian also felt somewhat awkward. Luckily at this moment, the crazy old freak spoke again. I only came here to take a look at the heaven vault. She is no longer here. What's the point of me staying here? I'm leaving. Treat her well. As the sound of his voice faded, the crazy old freak transformed into a series of afterimages before vanishing completely. Senior. Qin Wentian called out. However, the figure of the crazy old freak had already vanished from his vision. His speed was so fast that it was inconceivable. Just this speed alone was sufficient to allow him to roam unrivaled in the supreme ancient immortal realms. Resplendent astral light cascaded down on the two of them. Only Qin Wentian and Princess Kitamura were left here. In addition to the words spoken by the crazy old freak earlier, the atmosphere was somewhat awkward. Qin Wentian glanced at Princess Kitamura only to see that she was leaning to the side, not looking in their direction. It was unknown what she was thinking about. That, Yu Huang, are you going to cultivate in the heaven vault or go to the divine sect? Qin Wentian asked. What about you? Princess Kitamura asked. I will go out to take a look first. Qin Wentian still had no idea about the situation in the outside world. Cultivation would only take a day or two. Given his current cultivation realm, if he wanted to improve further, he would need a very long period of time. I will go with you then. Princess Kitamura spoke in a light voice. Initially, there wasn't anything wrong with this sentence. But when she thought of the words spoken by the crazy old freak earlier, Princess Kitamura felt that something was wrong. Upon seeing Qin Wentian's gaze landing on her face, Princess Kitamura actually shifted her gaze away in a panic. After that, she stepped out and headed outside. How long do you need to maintain this speed? Qin Wentian stepped forward. His spatial energy enveloped Princess Kitamura as the two of them flew out of the heaven vault together. After returning to the central divine city of the Qin Heavenly Divine Sect, Qin Wentian spoke to Princess Kitamura. Yu Huang, the pearl Senior gave you is an extraordinary treasure. Go and refine it to see what kind of treasure it is. Princess Kitamura nodded lightly. After that, she left and returned to her bedroom. She came to her cultivation area and sat down. Her beautiful eyes stared ahead in a daze, as though she was thinking about something. After a long time, she took out the pearl and attempted to refine it. However, no matter how many times she tried, she discovered that she couldn't refine the pearl at all. It is refined using one's soul. A voice rang out in her mind. Princess Kitamura's beautiful eyes flashed as she asked, Teacher, are you acquainted with that Senior? The will in her mind fell silent. It didn't reply and spoke instead. This pearl is a treasure she used in the past. You have to make good use of it. Her. Princess Kitamura's beautiful eyes flashed. She pondered for a moment before her heart trembled. She knew who her teacher was referring to. The imperishable Heaven Lord. This pearl was actually a treasure used by the imperishable Heaven Lord before. No wonder the crazy old freak would give it to her so solemnly. Senior Crazy's kindness to me, I'm afraid I won't be able to repay it. Princess Kitamura spoke in a light voice. Her teacher still didn't reply. After that, Princess Kitamura started to use her soul to refine the pearl. As expected, there was actually an incomparably terrifying amount of soul energy within the pearl that gradually fused into her soul. As the fusion continued, she could faintly sense the existence of a supremely powerful soul energy. This soul energy seemed to automatically envelop this boundless region, radiating outwards. In Yi Qianyu's palace, she saw Jelan Chuyue. It was as though she could sense Jelan Chuyue's soul. At this moment, Jelan Chuyue, who was in contemplation, suddenly furrowed her brows. She could sense that someone was spying on her, but when her immortal sense spread out, she didn't discover anything. This feeling was very strange, it felt like her soul was being spied on. Princess Kitamura's heart pounded violently. The pearl gradually fused with her soul and her soul energy grew more and more terrifying. Her perception retreated from Jelan Chuyue's soul. Earlier, it was unintentional, but it wasn't good for her to keep spying on others. Her powerful soul energy allowed her to enter Qin Wentian's palace. When she saw Qin Wentian there, a strange thought appeared in her mind. After that, she tried to probe Qin Wentian's soul. Michum. At this moment, Qin Wentian's eyes froze. After that, his powerful soul energy transformed into a sealing energy, isolating the probing of others. After that, his soul energy gushed out ferociously, aiming for the source. However, he discovered that the source of the soul energy seemed to be everywhere and was hard to grasp. But by relying on his powerful soul energy, he still managed to find the source. He saw Princess Kitamura, who was currently cultivating. After being caught red-handed, Princess Kitamura's face turned red. Qin Wentian started for a moment before he smiled and silently retreated. He knew that Baiming Yuhuang was refining the pearl. Seems like this treasure was extraordinary, it could actually silently invade the souls of others. This was too terrifying. At the very least, he didn't extort the crazy old freak for nothing. Qin Wentian's silhouette flashed as he found his maternal grandfather, Luoshan Chuan. Wentian, was Senior Grim Reaper here earlier? Luoshan Chuan asked. But that senior has a strange personality and has already left. I learned some things from him. Qin Wentian told Luoshan Chuan about some things in the universe region. Luoshan Chuan's heart trembled as he felt waves of pressure. Grandfather, we need to spread some news and intentionally release some news to let the people of the Supreme Ancient Immortal Realms know of the ambitions of the universe region. In this way, those peak powers would have to be wary of cooperating with the Western world. Qin Wentian spoke. Luoshan Chuan nodded, indeed, I will order people to do this. Qin Wentian nodded. Although he was the founder of the Qin Heavenly Divine Sect, he didn't really care about the sect's affairs. Since he told this matter to his maternal grandfather, he would naturally handle it well. Chapter 1947. After Luoshan Chuan learned of the things that happened in the past from Qin Wentian, he ordered people to intentionally leak this news to the Supreme Ancient Immortal Realms. Very swiftly, many people in the Supreme Ancient Immortal Realms were discussing about this. The Western world was actually the main culprit behind the world-ending battle in ancient Azure Mystic back then. In addition, the Western world's goal was to unify the Supreme Ancient Immortal Realms and make everyone in the Immortal Realms worship the gods of the Western world. With regards to the veracity of this news, many people had a doubtful attitude. After all, the Western world was a sacred ground of the Buddhist sect. Also, the world-ending battle was simply too cruel. It was easier for people to accept the explanation that it was a war between the deities of the Supreme Ancient Immortal Realms and Azure Mystic. If one said that it was the Western world that caused the world-ending battle, that would be a conspiracy. However, there were also people who held a skeptical attitude. After all, everyone knew that not long ago, the Grim Reaper had descended upon the holy land of Buddhism with darkness. Black clouds covered the sky. Although no one knew what exactly happened there might really be something that no one knew. The attitude of the people of the Supreme Ancient Immortal Realms wasn't important. What was important was how the hegemonic powers of the Supreme Ancient Immortal Realms felt. They believed this news. In addition, they knew that this news was released by the Qin Heavenly Divine Sect, and there was a high possibility that this news originated from Qin Wentian. Qin Wentian clearly had an extremely deep connection with the Grim Reaper. The Grim Reaper banished the various experts for him and even appeared in the Western world. If there was someone who was the clearest about what happened back then, that person would be none other than the Grim Reaper. He was someone who personally experienced it. Moreover, they knew a little about some of the abilities of the Buddhist sections. The more they knew, the more they believed the news. The various hegemonic powers also felt an immense pressure. This pressure originated from the Qin Heavenly Divine Sect and the Western world. Long ago, when the seal on ancient Azure Mystic was loosened, there were already rumors saying that the future of the supreme ancient immortal realms would change. Right now, this great change seemed to be getting closer and closer. They all felt that time was pressing. No one could predict what would happen in the future and what sort of influence this change would have. But what they could do now was to make the most of their time and grow stronger. However, what made them feel somewhat pessimistic was that no matter what conditions they had, it was impossible for them to be compared to the Qin Heavenly Divine Sect and the Western world. The Qin Heavenly Divine Sect relied on the Heaven Vault and had unparalleled potential. As for the Western world itself, it was already a hegemonic power. In the Qin clan, in a certain palace, Qin Zheng was resting with his eyes closed. The sound of footsteps rang out. Qin Zheng opened his eyes only to see his wife walking over. After that, her soft body leaned on him as she embraced him. "What's wrong?" Qin Zheng asked with a gentle voice. "Are we wrong?" She softly spoke, her words causing Qin Zheng's body to tremble. Staring at the beauty in his arms, his eyes flashed with astonishment. He was extremely clear of what sort of a character his wife was. If it was in the past, such words would never have come out of her mouth. But now, she actually said that they were wrong. Is the pressure too great? Qin Zheng gently caressed her cheeks and said softly. Back then, if we didn't treat Qin Yuanfeng in such a manner, maybe the current Qin clan would already cause the other hegemonic powers to feel fear. In fact, the Qin clan might even be able to ascend to a brand new height. But now, because of us, the Qin clan ended up where it is today. Her voice was very low, as though she was questioning everything she did back then. Since things have already come to this, why is there a need to think about this? We didn't do anything wrong. Qin Zheng spoke. There was no right or wrong in the world. If one stood in their own perspective and thought, they would always be right because everyone was selfish. But even now, there's still no news of Dang Er. I'm afraid that the Qin clan will be destroyed in our hands. Her son was once their pride, the Heaven's Son. His glory was boundless and he wanted to ascend to the peak of the supreme ancient immortal realms. But ever since Qin Yuanfeng's son, Qin Wentian, appeared, everything changed. The wheels of history rolled on and their Qin clan and Heaven's Son, Qin Dangtian, were no longer the main characters of this era. They were no longer blessed by the heavens. All the glory was on that extraordinary young man. Dang Er will return, he definitely will. You know where he went. He will become even stronger than us. Qin Zheng's eyes were filled with determination. Qin Dangtian had experienced the darkest day of his life. Such a setback was sufficient to crush even heavenly deities. However, he still believed that his son would eventually rise up. All the setbacks, humiliation, and suffering would only temper his son and allow him to move forward, allowing him to grow stronger. She nodded as her beautiful eyes flashed with determination. She also believed that if Qin Wentian was her son's destined enemy, Dang Er would definitely be able to defeat destiny. Once, Qin Wentian treated Qin Wentian as his destined enemy, yet Qin Dangtian didn't even spare him a glance. But now, Qin Zheng and his wife have already treated Qin Wentian as Qin Dangtian's destined enemy. But could Qin Dangtian really be able to defeat destiny? The Che clan was like a golden world. The vast ancient clan was enveloped within a formation diagram. Within the Che clan, there was a world where countless experts gathered. In this world, there were countless divine formations. Also, There were countless people inscribing formations here, perfecting them. This entire world was like a gigantic smelting furnace. The heaven and earth smelting furnace in the center of the divine formations radiated an incomparably terrifying energy that gushed forth. In the air above this world, an incomparable radiance could be seen, as though a supreme divine weapon was being forged. At this moment, a few figures stood in the air. They were none other than the Che clan leader and several other heavenly deities. They stared ahead with sharp gazes. This world within the Che clan was their secret. For the people here, other than heavenly deities, no one else was allowed to leave. Once they entered, they wouldn't be able to leave. They would have to forge weapons here for all eternity. Also, they would only be able to forge a single divine weapon. However, all of them came here willingly. For generations of experts from the Che clan, there were many who were fanatical about weaponsmithing, treating weaponsmithing as their religion. Being able to witness the birth of an unparalleled divine weapon in their lifetime, even if they had to pay the price of death, they wouldn't hesitate. The Che clan was known as the #1 weaponsmithing aristocrat clan in the supreme ancient immortal realms. Using the strength of their entire clan, they created a secret world and forged a divine weapon. If the people of the world knew about this, they would surely be filled with terror. How terrifying would a divine weapon forged by them be? We have to speed up the pace. The Che clan leader spoke. The eyes of the heavenly deities beside him gleamed with sharpness. They all knew why their clan leader said this. The Che clan has already offended Qin Wentian. The Western world was also extremely ambitious. None of them could be relied on. It was very dangerous. The supreme ancient immortal realms was about to change. In this storm that would arrive in the future, even for peak powers, they might suffer a calamity of destruction. Everyone from the various powers could sense it. During these hundreds of years, too many major events happened in the supreme ancient immortal realms. Even ordinary people could sense that there would be a huge change in the supreme ancient immortal realms, let alone them. The experts of the supreme ancient immortal realms naturally had to do their best to survive the upcoming storm. Or perhaps, they could grow stronger. Not only was the Qin clan and Che clan making preparations, those major powers with powerful foundations were all making preparations. Back then in the deity-level battle in the Qin clan, although all the major powers sent out their experts, it was clear that it was impossible for them to reveal all their trump cards. Hence, they still had some reservations. Mystic Region, Ziwei Divine Court. Today in the Ziwei Divine Court, 7 heavenly deities gathered together. This was the peak strength of the Ziwei Divine Court. The person in charge of the Ziwei Star Sovereign was an imposing-looking middle-aged man. He wore the Ziwei Divine Crown on his head and appeared incomparably noble. At this moment, the gaze of the Ziwei Star Sovereign turned to a pale-faced young man opposite him. He asked, "Yu Changkong, where have you been during these days?" "Star Sovereign, don't you already know? Why is there a need to ask?" Yu Changkong inclined his head, staring at the Ziwei Star Sovereign as he calmly replied. "Impudent. Yu Changkong, is this the attitude you should have when speaking to the Star Sovereign?" A heavenly deity berated. Back then, Yu Changkong devoured his master and replaced him. In order to prevent the loss of a heavenly deity, the Ziwei Star Sovereign decided to accept him. After all, heavenly deities were extremely important to the Ziwei Divine Court. It was impossible for them to give up on them so easily. But now, Yu Changkong already caused the Ziwei Star Sovereign to feel threatened. It was getting harder and harder for him to control Yu Changkong. From what he knew, after the Divine Ox clan was destroyed, Yu Changkong vanished. After that, countless lives in the desolate region mysteriously vanished. The Ziwei Star Sovereign stared at Yu Changkong, his eyes were cold and imposing. "Why is the restriction I placed on you growing weaker and weaker? Are you trying to undo it?" "Restriction?" Yu Changkong mockingly laughed. After that, his body directly transformed into nothingness, transforming into a cloud of black mist that floated in the air. After that, a terrifying destructive might manifested from the black mist, as though something had shattered. The expression of the Ziwei Star Sovereign changed. After that, Yu Changkong's body reformed again as he smiled at him. Back then, although he accepted Yu Changkong, in order to control him, the Ziwei Star Sovereign planted an extremely powerful restriction on him. But now, that restriction was easily destroyed by Yu Changkong. How did you do it? The Ziwei Star Sovereign coldly stared ahead. Yu Changkong didn't reply. His white face had a mocking smile on it. After that, a terrifying black mist gathered behind him, transforming into a gigantic face. A mere minor Dao wants to restrict me. The gigantic face actually spoke, but its voice was different from Yu Changkong's. The heavenly deities of the Ziwei Divine Court all stared at Yu Changkong. What technique is this? The Ziwei Star Sovereign coldly asked. This isn't a technique. He is a true life existence. Yu Changkong slowly spoke. You transformed him. Nope. Yu Changkong shook his head. During my cultivation, he was automatically born. He said that he is my past life. The hearts of the heavenly deities trembled, they could sense that Yu Changkong was different. He actually had a past life. Who? The Ziwei Star Sovereign coldly asked. A bunch of ant-like heavenly deities. From today onwards, the Ziwei Divine Court will listen to my commands. That face coldly spoke. Yes, listen to my commands. Yu Changkong coldly replied. What's the difference between you and me? That face spoke again. You are you, I am me. Yu Changkong. Yu Changkong was still stubborn. Who is he? The expression of the Ziwei Star Sovereign changed unceasingly. He stared ahead. That gigantic face was staring at him, causing him to feel a faint pressure.